All right, how's it going, everybody? So, in today's video, we actually have a special guest. We have the professional. So, I'm actually going to bring him in right now so you guys can see him. As mentioned, as I always state at the start, let me know how the audio sounds. I did check it, but let me know if there's any issues. So, right there, how's it going, professional? Thank you so much for stopping by. Oh, wait a
You
second.
doing, dude?
Sorry, the audio just went in. I have to change that, actually. There we go. Yeah. So now everybody can hear you. But yeah, thank you so much for stopping by, Professional. Now, for those of you that don't know, Professional is actually, I've been watching your content actually since 2017. So it's actually been quite some time. Before you were well known for in the GTA community. You were actually one of the top creators in the GTA, but then you did transition into
hmm
variety gaming. So yeah, really cool. And one of the reasons why I wanted you to I actually sent out an invitation to join the podcast was because I saw that you posted a Dead Rising video. So usually I don't really see you post that many survival horror types of games on your channel, but when I saw that, I was actually quite surprised. And seeing that you're such a huge Dead Rising fan, I was like, oh, that'd be so amazing to have you on. But yeah, I don't know if you can explain, your background as to how you started gaming, right? Because you're a variety gamer. How did that start? What's your history with gaming in general?
Basically, when I was a kid, when I was like in running kindergarten, this is, 1999, right around that time. I would go to a lot of my friends' houses, and I would constantly play on their PlayStation ones, and I think Nintendo 64 back then, and I liked them a lot. And what happened was a lot of the kids they actually wanted to play outside, but I actually wanted to just play video games specifically. And it was because they had video games at their house, and I didn't have video games at my house. And I guess that's why I was a lot more fascinated by it. And so my parents they bought me a PlayStation One. I remember for Christmas, and I just liked video games ever since then. And I've been playing. My first video game was actually pretty much a Capcom game. Also, it was actually Mega Man Legends. Do you know that one?
Yeah, Mega Man Legends. I actually grew up playing the first one. I got the second one, but the disc was broken. I got it for like $5 off like a video game store that was like selling all their stock. And that was a shame. But Mega Man Legends, that's such a good game. That was actually one of the first, I guess, yeah, Capcom games that well, no, you know what? No, technically I played Dino Crisis before that, which was like Resident Evil. Have you ever played Dino Crisis?
No, I have not.
Yeah, it's basically it's so I'm sure you're well aware with Resident Evil. It was actually made by the same creator as Resident Evil, but it's imagine Resident Evil but with like a time machine and scientists and just dinosaurs. So it's kind of like Jurassic Park, but yeah, but I guess just Resident Evil style. But I see. So yeah, so that's really cool that you started with Mega Man Legends, and yeah, I guess going along with that, what was your kind of introduction to GTA? When did you first kind of pick up a GTA game? I'm very curious.
The first GT the first GTA game that I ever owned was Vice City, but that's not the first GTA game that I played. The first
Hmm.
GTA game that I technically played was GTA 3. And I played GTA 3, I remember. I borrowed it actually from my friend when I was like, I would say 8 or 9 years old, because my friend had gotten GTA 3 and I borrowed that from him. But it wasn't the first one I owned. The first one I owned after that was Vice City, but I played through GTA 3. I actually beat it when I was like 8 or 9 years old. Some of the missions made me really mad. Like there was that one mission with the crazy like drug addicts that would suicide bomb you. The mission where Catalina just ambushes you. That mission, it was Kingdom Come. That's the name of the mission, and that mission just made me so mad when I was a kid.
Nice, nice. Yeah, for me personally, I actually have not played GTA 3, but I have seen your lore videos regarding a Cloud, I believe is his name, right? And I also saw some of your playthrough of like the GTA Definitive Edition. But that's actually a game that I want to play. And you know what? I was actually going to ask you too. If do you recommend playing the definitive edition or the OG? Because this was actually something that I brought up in stream a couple weeks ago. Is there was a ton of problems with the definitive edition, if I'm not mistaken, right? When it first came out, did they address those issues, or is it still the same?
Some
Like,
of some of them no, but I will
hmm,
tell you though, the if you're gonna play a version of Definitive Edition, play GTA 3 or play Vice City.
I
San
see.
Andreas still has a lot of issues because I was actually playing San Andreas Definitive Edition like a couple weeks ago, and there are still like random tires and random car parts that are in the middle of the road. So like you'll be driving down the highway and you'll see like random car parts, and that's not supposed to be part of the game. That is not. It's just like parts falling off of a car, and it's just there in the road. And I've had that happen. I've seen it happen where textures still have problems loading up. It usually happens in the desert part of the map, like right near the military base, where you fly in and you will not see the textures until the very last second. And I'm thinking, like, this is definitive edition. But I will say, though, that for GTA 3 and Vice City, I don't really have that much of a problem with those versions. I think that Vice City Definitive Edition, in my opinion, is the best looking one. I think it has that perfect, like, pink Miami sky, which the original didn't. Because the original, when you really think about it, it was kind of like, had really the same kind of sun falling down as like GTA 3. And so there wasn't that much they could do with it. But if you just look at the clouds and you just look at the sky, it's clear that the Vice City Definitive Edition just looks better. And one thing I do appreciate about Vice City and GTA 3 Definitive Edition is that the console versions actually have the assault rifle aiming. You know what I mean? Like when you hold down the trigger on the assault rifle, you can just aim it like a PC player. Because on PC, on console, you could only go into first person mode, and so it was a lot harder to aim with that. So it was a lot easier to aim with third person. I do appreciate that they have that with the assault rifles. And
I heard you bring this up actually in one of your videos, because I was seeing I saw your playthrough of Vice City Stories, I believe. And then, which I think is a prequel, right? And then after I saw you play the Vice City, because those are the only two GTA games that I have not played. I guess GT, like the earlier GTAs, but GTA 3, Vice City, I actually started with San Andreas. I was actually 12, and it was my first experience with GTA. But yeah, I guess that's a shame that the definitive edition wasn't. There's still issues with San Andreas, but it's good to hear that the other games have been fixed, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that, two things that I think they should really do that would really improve the definitive editions is to add a mission selection option. Because if it's like a definitive, because all the other GTA games afterwards, like it started with Ballad of Gay Tony, and then it went with Red Dead Redemption 1, and then GTA 5, you had mission replay on those games. So you could choose any mission from start to finish, and you could just replay that. But you cannot do that with definitive edition. So my question is, this game was, remade. Why can't I just, choose a random mission in San Andreas and just replay? Some of those missions in San Andreas are really good. And San Andreas is like 100 missions in total. It's the longest, story of any GTA game. So literally, you would have to just load up saves to go through it. I find it frustrating. And it's also specific trophies in the Definitive Edition that you have to do certain things on certain missions. Like that mission where you break into Mad Dog's mansion to steal his rhyme book. There's a trophy to do the mission completely stealth. And if you pass that mission, you can't go back to that mission unless you load up another save or you start a new game and you go through that. So they should really let you replay all of those missions. And I think the second thing is they should add multiplayer to San Andreas. I'm not talking necessarily like the PC multiplayer. I'm talking more the original console multiplayer, because the PS2 version of San Andreas did have multiplayer. It was two players. You would go.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I used to play that. I was gonna say split screen, but no, it's almost like it was like
it's one screen.
Yeah, one screen. You see your guys kind of going around, right? Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, I actually forgot about that. So they didn't add that in the definitive. They took that out.
It wasn't all the icons went on for it, and not only that, they also took out a lot of the original music. A lot of it is gone. And speaking of which. In relation to Dead Rising, what Capcom has done, I'm sure you know, but this Capcom has done one thing the fans really appreciate. They're all the same songs from Dead Rising 1 are coming back. The original soundtrack, everything. Nothing is getting cut.
Yeah, that was a huge surprise. And you know what? They kind of did like a stealth. It was a very stealth kind of like when they announced that, it was posted on their Twitter, I remember, and I was like, okay, they're not making a bigger thing out of this. Like they could have mentioned this. And because I don't think they mentioned it at the Capcom Next event, right? I remember streaming that. I don't think I heard that. I think it was just in the Twitter, and then obviously then gaming articles kind of took that information and kind of spread it around. But that's crazy for a kind of a remake, I guess, because I guess we'll go into the whole remake. Whether it's actually a remake or remaster, because I have been getting a lot of arguments from some Dead Rising fans that still want to believe that it's a remaster. But thank you so much, Demon, for stopping by. I'm just reading the chat. Oh, somebody donated super chat at $2. Thank you so much, Zombie Affected Gaming. He says, hey, nice to see a pro collab. Yeah, thank you so much, Professional, for stopping by on the channel. It's honestly, it was crazy because as mentioned at the start of the stream, I've been watching Professional since 2017. I think you're actually one of my top creators that I watch consecutively, every day and such, or whenever you post the videos, what I mean. But I really appreciate how, you always, you always do fundraisers. You always call out like clickbaits and stuff that occur, especially with GTA 6, right? With the whole thing that happens. Resident Evil, because I'm a Resident Evil channel, we get the same thing with the new Resident Evil 9. Everyone's, and with Resident Evil 4 Remake as well, we were getting so many just bogus, just fake announcements, fake news saying that the game was gonna, like, that there was not going to be an island section, that there were, like, it was going to be completely different from the original, and at the end, that none of it turned out to be true. So I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, I really appreciate you, I guess, as a content creator in the gaming space. Yeah. Leon also says peak content creators collab. Yeah. And I guess going along with that, another thing that I also wanted to ask you. Wait a second. Sorry, the whole thing here. Yeah. So the other thing I also wanted to ask you, since we were just talking about Resident Evil, is what's your experience with Resident Evil? Because I was actually, as mentioned, I was surprised to hear that you're a longtime Dead Rising fan. So before we get to that, yeah, let's talk about Resident Evil. What's your experience with it, with the franchise?
I've never much been into the Resident Evil games. I've played very limited amounts of them. I do know generally the characters, Chris Redfield, Wesker, Leon. So I do know most of the main characters, and I do have a little bit of an understanding about the story of the Evil Umbrella Corporation and such. There was only 2 Resident Evil games that I've ever really owned and beaten completely, and that was Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. And the main reason that I got Operation Raccoon City, it wasn't even because it was a Resident Evil game. It was for 2 reasons, actually. It was because it was a co-op game, and we didn't really have that many co-op games back then. Most games were just pretty much PvP on PS3, and so I wanted some kind of game I could play co-op with. I could work together with people, having to kill them constantly. And it was co-op zombie game, which I kind of liked. And the second one was that you actually got to play as the villain, so it was like a different perspective on that. So that's one of the. I didn't think Raccoon City was actually a terrible game like some people said it was. I thought it was just an average game. I didn't think it was bad, but it was just average for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically, I mean, if those are the only experiences that you've had with Resident Evil, those games, where in particular Operation Raccoon City, is quite different from the rest. And correct me if I'm wrong, but do I remember that I'm kind of remembering a memory of me watching you play through the SOCOM games. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and
I played SOCOM 1 and 2.
Yeah, one of the funny things about Operation Raccoon City that makes it very different from the rest of the Resident Evil games is that it was actually made by the SOCOM developers, if I'm not mistaken.
Zipper.
Yeah. And yeah, so that, I guess I thought maybe that there was a connection there. I was actually going to ask you if maybe that's why you kind of
I don't even remember that it was the same developer. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, it was because I remember when the game first came out, I think it did do a good job of grabbing a lot of newer fans or newer, people that have never played Resident Evil into, like, for example, I had 2 of my buddies in high school at the time, because I think the game came out 2012 or 2013, I think, somewhere around there, right? And I remember that, yeah, the game came out. My 2 buddies never played Resident Evil, weren't really that much interested, weren't really interested in the series, and they kind of got their hands, and they couldn't let go of the game. They loved playing it, and they weren't even playing a co-op. They were just playing a single player, but just like passing the controller. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a game that's very different from the rest of the series. But that's interesting that you also played Resident Evil 5. I imagine the reason for that is because you were also interested in the co-op aspect, right?
Yes, I was interested in the co-op. It was also also at the time is Resident Evil 5 was a game that had really good graphics. Like you compare it to a lot of other PS3 and Xbox 360 games at that time. The graphics were just really good. I don't think I really enjoyed the story that much in Resident Evil 5. I mean, I don't know what you think of the story in Resident Evil 5,
yeah,
but I didn't really enjoy the story that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting that a lot of the other Resident Evil games are a bit different. For starters, I mean, one of the things that's very different about Resident Evil 5 is that it's very action heavy. So the co-op almost felt like, I don't know if you've played like the Army of Two series, where it's like super actiony. There's a lot of sections like that in Resident Evil 5, where the game was just like even the enemies had like machine guns, which was very new to the series. In fact, a lot of people didn't like that, but like a lot of the Resident Evil fan base, because it was just too much action, and not too much of the survival, horror aspect of what the other games kind of give you. But yeah, and also the story was a very doomsday kind of a story. I don't know if you've ever watched like the Resident Evil movies, but Resident Evil 5, I guess, was kind of close to that because it was a very like apocalyptic. The villain basically wanted to kill and infect the whole entire world, and would end up killing a bunch of people, billions of people. So that kind of doomsday also kind of point to that game was very new as well. Obviously, as you mentioned before, right, Resident Evil has always been fighting pharmaceutical companies, and then after it transitioned to fighting occult members that were also using viruses, or in that case with Resident Evil 4 is like a parasite, an ancient parasite. So it's always been very scientific, very kind of, you're fighting big corporations or big groups of people, and well, as opposed to Resident Evil 5 where it was just one man, right? You were fighting Wesker and his doomsday kind of plot. But yeah, I mean, that kind of brings me into my next question. I noticed there's so many people that have actually wanted you that I've seen a lot of your comments, especially when you asked your audience, what game should I play next? Or if you have any ideas, or even just in your comment section in general. But I've actually seen a lot of people that have asked you to play Resident Evil 4. Have you actually looked at all at Resident Evil 4 Remake? Because the remake just released last year.
No, I haven't really looked much into it, but if I do play the Resident Evil games, what I would do is I would probably do like Resident Evil 2 Remake, and then Resident Evil
Yeah.
3, and then Resident Evil 4. I wouldn't want to start in 4 and then do 3 and 2. I thought that would be a weird order to do. So
Yeah.
I would start it with the original remakes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's a good plan as well. I mean, it's worth noting too that Resident Evil is very like the years are very, like, for example, Resident Evil 2 takes place in 1998, Resident Evil 3 as well, but Resident Evil 4 takes place in 2006, and then Resident Evil 5 2009, and then so on and so forth. But it's very different. But yeah, no, actually, I do recommend that if you ever go into the series, to definitely try Resident Evil 2. I think you'll have a great time with it. And you know what? I actually think that you'll like Resident Evil 4 Remake a little bit more. I don't know. I have a feeling. If you ever try it out, I definitely think that you would like Resident Evil 4 a little bit more. But I guess that kind of transitions off to my next question, which is your history with Dead Rising. So I was actually shocked, as mentioned, to hear that you are such a fan of the series. To my knowledge, you've played every single game, right? Yeah.
I've beaten Dead Rising 1, Dead Rising 2, Dead Rising Off the Record, and Dead Rising 3. Dead Rising 4, I never beat it, but I watched a playthrough of it, and the reason I didn't get it was because it's just the disaster that was with Dead Rising 4. That was primarily why I didn't get it.
Yeah, that's the same thing with my case. If anything, I wanted to play Dead Rising 3, but I couldn't because it was just an Xbox exclusive, and I'm a PlayStation guy, so I couldn't. I didn't have like the opportunity to play it, and I just kept assuming that they were going to release it for PlayStation at a later date, kind of like what happened with Dead Rising 1, right? I mean, we ended up getting it in 2016, but that was kind of omitted from like the remastered pack, which I thought was very strange. And yeah, I mean, for me personally, I haven't played 3 or 4, but definitely have to, especially with this remake that's releasing.
Well, three
Yeah.
is a really good one too. A lot of people give hate to 3, but 3 is so much better than 4. And if I was to compare Dead Rising 3 to any game, I would say that Dead Rising 3 is the GTA 4 of the Dead Rising series. Do you know what I mean by that?
Dead Rising 3 is a GTA 4. Or I guess a lot of people really love the story in GTA 4. Is that what you mean, or?
Well, no, I don't mean necessarily the story, but I mean the fact that Dead Rising 3 is the darkest and most grittiest like Dead Rising game. It's the most disturbing one.
Hmm.
Because the thing is, Dead Rising, you've played through Dead Rising 1, right?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
So Dead Rising 1 is has horror elements to it. There are
Yep.
parts in Dead Rising 1 which are disturbing and creepy.
Yep.
Dead Rising 2, I would say the mood of Dead Rising 2 is a bit more happy than
Yeah.
Dead Rising 1. It's a
Yep.
bit more cheerful. Dead Rising 3 is just dark and depressing. Like that
Mm.
if you play through it, like there's one character that dies in Dead Rising 3, and this character's death is just way brutal than anything
Mm.
I've seen in the other Dead Rising game. And that character's death is meant to just shock you, and it shocks the hell out of the main character. Like the main character is just disturbed by it because it's his friend that dies, and it was
Yeah.
just such a disturbing death that it was, and it wasn't even zombies that killed him. It was actually something completely different, but it was just such a disturbing death that that one specific death is people are probably going to know what I'm talking about. Is the death in the chair? Is that that's the one death that everybody talks about because it's so disturbing in Dead Rising. It honestly feels like a manhunt kill because of just how disturbing it is.
Yeah, I've actually seen, I think I think two of your videos from that playthrough of Manhunt, which I've always been told to play. I've actually, some of my viewers have also said for me to try it out, especially, because I've heard really good things about Manhunt. But yeah, it was a very, very interesting game. I was watching you play I think a couple months ago. I don't remember, but
Yes.
yeah, yeah, really, really interesting. But that's interesting to hear because, as mentioned, I haven't played Dead Rising 3. I actually played them in order, I guess, but I've only played up to Dead Rising 2. As mentioned, couldn't play. I didn't play off the record either because I guess I could have, but I don't know. It was just more like I just didn't bother because I thought it was the same exact game. But then a lot of my friends now have told me that no, it's actually really cool that they've added a bunch of stuff. So it is kind of like a DLC, but one thing, yeah. Speaking of Dead Rising, yeah, I actually got the platinum for it back in. I got the platinum for it back in whatchamacallit in 2020, which was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy, especially that 7 day survivor, which I definitely want to talk to you about because you brought up a really good point that I definitely want to go over. But you did mention GTA, and I do also there is something else that I also wanted to ask you is with the whole hype that's happening with GTA. Since I have you here, I definitely want to ask you what are you looking forward to the most with GTA 6? That's yeah.
Um, I would say probably the map. Yeah, probably the map. I want something different, and I'll tell you something is I think that GTA 5's map, in my opinion, is the weakest in the entire series. I
Hmm.
do think that. Maybe you can make the argument that it's better than GTA 3's map, but GTA 3's map has, I would say, just even more unique areas than GTA 5. And GTA 5, people often the problem with GTA 5's map is that you have fanboys where they constantly say, "Oh, it's the largest GTA map ever," and they will show you like pictures of San Andreas map and comparison to GTA 5's map. But physically, yes, GTA 5 technically is the biggest map, but it's not the biggest map in content, if you know what I mean by that. Because
Hmm.
GTA 5's map, if you really think about it, like 60% of the map in GTA 5 is just like mountains and hills. Like there is nothing on there. Maybe there's some roads that cut through the mountains and the hills, sure, but there's actually nothing on the mountains. Like literally, you drive through like fields of mountains. There's nothing on there. Like literally, I do the casino heist like almost every week on my stream, and it's we just always drive through the hills just to get away from the cops, and there's like
Yeah.
nothing up there. There's nothing up
Yeah.
there. It's
And you have
it's
to go
just
to the
it's so boring.
north, right? All the way to
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
tippy top by like the
yeah.
waterfall, like or with like the waterway where you go. Yeah, it's yeah, it is very empty. And even like for properties too, like even in online, because I know you've the other thing that I also did mention too is that, professional is a professional at GTA. Especially I think you've gotten how many times have you gotten to $1 billion? Well, I think you have a bunch of hours, right? In the game. How many hours do you have in GTA Online actually?
I think it's last time I checked 470 days.
Dang, sheesh, that's amazing. Wow,
Yeah.
400. Yeah, so you've reached to 1 billion. And one of the things that I also really liked about your streams as well is that you've never bought a shark card, right? Or anything of the sort. Like this
Never.
is all just in
The
game.
only time I used a shark card is when I got the game. It
Hmm.
came with, I think it was like a $100,000 shark card. It just
Yeah,
came with
yeah.
the game, and I
Yeah.
used it. But I've never purchased a shark card. I've never done that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a lot of grinding, but I guess that's why you're known as a professional. And kind of going back to that, there was another question too that I also had is how did you come up with the name professional? What's the origin with that?
Uh, Basically, is I had a cheesy name before this, and so like I just wanted something like my own brand. I just wanted something different, and the thing is, though, is that my name does not directly come from the professionals in GTA because there's a gang called the Professionals, and people oftentimes think that it might have been
Hmm.
a little bit of an inspiration, but mostly when I created the name the Professional, I was thinking about like like more of like a professional criminal, like a hitman or a bank robber or something like that. And I was thinking a lot of the movie Heat, that movie Heat with Al Pacino,
Yeah, I've heard
and
good things. Yeah.
that was pretty much what I was thinking of when I was thinking of that name. And so I decided to create that name. I wanted something different. I wanted something unique for my channel, and it's worked out. People have liked the name a lot. People are very positive about the name, and so I like it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I guess that's the other thing too that I also wanted to mention too is that when you first started, you were doing GTA exclusive content, right? When did you actually start? When was it? Was it 2015 or was it a little later or
You mean
before than
when I
that?
started this my channel?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
started technically back in 2015,
I see.
but the channel did not, take off until I would say summer of 2017.
I
That
see.
was
Okay,
with the
so
gun running update. So I would
yeah.
just do like, cheesy, terrible videos beforehand. Just I wasn't really taking it seriously. It was just like, playing whatever, doing like a live stream, stuff like that. But it was, I would say in 2017 is when it really took off. And I was surprised because the thing is, though, is that from 2015 to summer of 2017, I only got 300 subscribers in that entire time. So like a year and a half was just 300 subscribers. And then what happened was I posted one gun running video, and I went to sleep and I woke up and the next day it was like 30,000 views, and it was like, and I
Wow.
got like 400 subscribers in just one day. And so imagine that I had gotten 300 subscribers in like a year and a half, and then one day after a video I had gotten 400 subscribers in one day. And so that
Yeah.
on surprised me a lot. I couldn't believe that I gotten that many. And so what I did was I started, posting more gun running videos, and those started getting, more views, started blowing up. And then I started posting like guides. I was like, this is how you make a lot of money with gun running, and that video blew up even more than the last one. So they started getting popular, and I was like, I'm just gonna cover GTA, and I'm gonna keep making more content on it. It was already my number one played game before even I started, doing content on my channel. But it really took off with the channel, and it really, pushed me to play GTA more and just make more content for it.
Wow, I see. And that yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, cuz I remember watching you I guess when you were I guess at your most popular. I didn't know that that's when your channel took off cuz when I joined, like when I subscribed to your channel, I think you had roughly you were in the 100,000s, I remember. I don't know if it was like 200, 300, but something along that line, but that you very, you there was also a section too, right, where you decided to become a variety gamer, and that's when also I started seeing your cosplay playthroughs, right? Which I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that seeing that. So I guess when did that start happening, and what kind of incentivized that transition for you to change your content?
Basically, the thing that pushed me to change my content was it was really it was that I tried to do content that was I've always wanted to do content different, because my ultimate dream was to be a channel that does variety content. I did not just want to be, stuck on GTA. But what happened was I got really popular on the GTA content, and what happened is if I would post any kind of video, even if it was a good video that I would work really hard on, if I posted any other video that was not GTA, I would have, two things that would happen. The first thing is that the video would not, get nearly as popular as the GTA videos. It wouldn't even have half the views of a GTA video. And the second thing is I would have people that would be really toxic when I would post something that's not GTA. Like I remember that one time in 2017, I was doing like, a GTA live stream almost every single day. Like it was like I would do like a 2-3 hour stream every day, and I couldn't take it anymore. Like just doing
Yeah.
GTA streams like every day for 3-4 hours. It was like taking a toll on mental health, and I just didn't want to, stream for that long and also keep playing the same game over and over again. And what happened is the GTA streams were blowing up. I was getting tons of views, and then one day I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do a Battlefield 1 stream because I really like Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
And I remember the GTA streams at that time, like they would get like around 100 to 200 viewers at peak, like at once, just watching me constantly.
Yeah.
And when I started up a Battlefield 1 stream, it was 10 viewers instead of like 100 or
Mm,
200 viewers. And I was thinking to myself, like, why are the viewer counts so low? Because when I was playing GTA, their view counts were just so much higher. I didn't realize what the thing was, that the problem was at first. And I thought maybe people aren't getting notifications when I'm doing the Battlefield 1 content, but then I realized people were getting notifications. It was just that they weren't as interested. And what really broke my heart, what really hurt me, was that the 10 people that were actually there watching that stream at that time weren't even there to watch Battlefield 1. They were just commenting, when are you going to play GTA? When are you going to do a GTA video?
mm,
So it was like I was trying to do another game, trying to do different content, and I had people pushing me constantly. And then I'll never forget it, because I didn't have the filter on at that time, and so people would come in the chat and they would say really nasty things. And I had this one guy come in the chat, and he said, basically, I subscribe to this channel for Battlefield, for GTA, not Battlefield, BS. Play GTA right blank now, or I'm going to blank unsubscribe. That's basically what he was.
wow.
He was using a bunch of the F word, dropping F bombs constantly on the stream, and I was like, well, looking at that, and I was thinking, how can somebody get so angry at me because I streamed a different game one day, like one day of the week I played a different game, but I had basically, people where I was getting really pissed. And for years at that point, I gave up on doing other content, and I just started kept doing nothing but GTA. And I don't regret doing only GTA because I did really enjoy the game. I did enjoy making guides, but I didn't just want to be stuck on just one game because it was driving me mad. I wanted to do other guides for other games, play other content, and what really finally pushed me was when COVID happened and everybody was under lockdown. We were all sitting inside. People were watching more videos. My channel had like skyrocketed in views at that time. Like it was like more views than I had gotten beforehand. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna start playing other games. I'm gonna start doing other stuff. And I started doing like Watch Dogs, Dead Rising, a bunch of Destroy All Humans. I started playing like a lot of different games. And what happened was the views just plummeted. But despite the views plummeting, I didn't let it get to me. I had people that were coming in the comments complaining, and they were saying, oh, play GTA, I'm going to unsubscribe if you keep playing this game. And I said, dude, I'm still doing the same amount of GTA content. I'm still posting GTA content. It's other content that I want to do at this time. And people were still being pushy. And at that point, I kind of limited the GTA content. I took a break from it basically for a year. And I still did YouTube, but I just did mainly other content. And even though I took a massive hit in the views, and I lost thousands of subscribers, I didn't let it get to me because I wanted to do what I wanted to do on my channel, and I wasn't going to have people, boss me around and tell me you can only play this game and only this game, nothing else. It's my channel. I made it. I put the work into it, and I'm going to play what game I want to play. And if I lose viewers and subscribers because of that, it's my choice. It's my channel at the end of the day.
And I guess that's a good. The other question that I had kind of pertaining to that is I do remember that really mean comment because I remember you making a video about that because there were so many people that were kind of attacking you and during that time. And one of the things that kind of shocked me too was that you seem like a very nice guy. That's actually one of the reasons why I watch your videos. I've been watching it for such a long time is because you do seem like a very nice guy. I love, as mentioned before, I love the fact that you're always doing fundraisers. It's definitely inspired me. And, and also, your takes on, like, for example, recently you just did that whole video where there were streamers that were kind of begging their audience for money, and it's like stuff like that. I really enjoy that you're calling stuff out like that, and other things with the clickbaity as mentioned before. But it kind of surprised me that it seems like since you're such a nice guy, it's a little bit strange to hear that your audience, it seems like when you were doing GTA heavy stuff, wasn't nice as well, right? I mean, those, right, only certain individuals, but it seems like there was a lot of people that were attacking you. Is that, I guess my question there is it because you kind of grew really fast? What timeline was that? Because you said there was 2020 when you decided to make the transition.
Yeah, 2020, 2021, and it was really rough that year. Because I had a lot of people complaining. And if I posted like any kind of video at that time, because I actually posted a Dead Rising playthrough like around that time, and if you actually look at the comments, like the majority of the comments are just asking me GTA questions. Like I'll be posting a Dead Rising playthrough, and some guy will just post a comment like, "What is the best business to buy in GTA Professional?" Or they'll be saying like, "Why are you posting this game? Why are you not playing GTA?" And it kind of gets me frustrated because I put work into a video, and just for people, just the majority of the comments to not even be relevant to the video. Like it's like I look at those comments and I think to myself, it's like, did the people even interested in the video that I posted here, or did they just come here and post because this was my last video and they were hoping that I would respond? And about my audience has been very positive. But what has happened is there has been a small group in the audience that has been very vocal, I would say, and they have been creating like a ruckus, and that small group spams a lot. So they will post like a lot of comments, and those comments will drown out the positive comments because that's small group of people that are toxic are just posting so many comments that they will drown out the positive comments. So it makes it seem like most of my audience was not behind me, but it was like a small group of people that were just posting that. And and there was just I remember even one time people were constantly saying to me like, oh, the playthroughs don't get as many views as GTA content. Do GTA content gets more? And I'm like, dude, it's not about the views. I want to do like other content. And that people they didn't seem to understand that when I was explaining to them. It's like, I want to do other content. I want to branch out. And I was explaining to them that GTA is not going to last forever. This game is not going to last forever because in my personal opinion, I think that everybody should diversify their content. I think everybody should, cover different games, do other content. Even if you're not a video game channel, whatever content you do, you should always try to make different types of content, not just one single type. Because what I've learned personally in my experience, if you grow on one single type of content, and there's plus and a negative to this. The plus is if you grow on one single type of content, it's the easiest to grow because people are looking up that specific content. They're looking up GTA, and you're going to get tons of subscribers really fast. The downside is that those people are going to be mainly only interested in that type of content. So when you try to do other things, they're not necessarily going to be as interested or as positive about it. So that's what I learned. Is I learned that doing only GTA content grew my channel tons, but it wasn't. It was then very hard to branch out and do other content. But I learned that when I start doing other content, I do other playthroughs. Like see me, I'm doing a bunch of playthroughs right now. The playthroughs like the Fallout 3 and LA Noire and those games and like Ace Attorney, they might not be as popular. But if I come back to those, because if I look at the analytics, usually those videos it's like negative 20 subscribers, negative 10. It's like I lose subscribers usually on like each of those playthroughs. But then when I come back to those same playthroughs like a couple months later, I see like plus 20, plus 30, plus 40 subscribers. So it's that those videos grow over time. Like Saints Row 1, when I posted my Saints Row 1 playthrough, people were saying the same thing. They were saying, oh, this is not going to get enough views. This isn't popular enough. But then I look at the Saints Row playthrough. It's been like 2 years. Some of the parts, these are playthrough parts, have over 100,000 views. And that's because people were looking it up and they were finding it. So that's basically it. Is I just branched out of the content and I wanted to do other content. And I'm telling you, those YouTubers that only do GTA, I'm not talking crap about them or insulting them in any way. What I'm just saying is that I understand them to a degree. They want to do only GTA because that's where their views are coming from. That's where most of their audience is coming from. But I'm telling you is that there's going to be a point when Rockstar pulls the plug on GTA Online. I'm not saying that the servers are going to go down or anything like that, but I'm saying is they're going to do the same thing they did to Reddit Online, or they're going to do it to GTA Online. There's not going to be any more content made, and I think that's going to be a significant amount of time between that and GTA 6. I know that GTA 6 is supposed to come out next year, but this holiday season, this December, might be the final GTA Online update. It might be the final one. And so we might not see GTA 6 until like fall next year. And so what do you think is going to happen to those channels that do GTA Online only when Rockstar basically puts out the final update on GTA? They pull the plug, and those channels are not going to have any content to make, and those channels, the views are going to plummet. You look at Battlefield channels. For example. Remember when Battlefield 5 pulled the plug? It came out of nowhere. The DICE was just basically like, that's it, no more Battlefield 5 updates.
Yeah.
The Battlefield channels plummeted in views. And the same thing happened to Star Wars Battlefront 2 channels.
I was just going to say, I was just going to mention that.
Nobody expected that. Like DICE is adding so much content to Battlefront 2, and nobody expected them to just pull the plug like that. Like they still had so many more heroes to add. Like they had Ventress to add, like Ahsoka to add. Like they had so many people they never added to the game. Jango Fett. There was like so many characters they still could have added, and they just randomly pulled the plug out of nowhere. And that threw the Star Wars Battlefront 2 channels up. Their views plummeted. But the Star Wars Battlefront channels, I'll say at least they had a little bit better than Battlefield channels, because the Star Battlefront channels, they could just do other Star Wars content, and their viewers would probably watch it.
But it's
the
still,
Battlefield channels, on the other hand, it's hard.
It's still hard though. Like some of the Battlefront channels that I saw that got to like 300K thousands, because I was a Star Wars Battlefront 2. I kind of got into the game a little late when the game was really good. So I think it was like 2019 2019 when I started playing it. And but I do, but going back to what we were just discussing, is I do remember that the DICE specifically said that they were going, like the community manager or whatever, they did state that they were going to make they were going to add Ahsoka. They did announce that they were going to do all of those things. They were going to add more heroes and all that stuff. So when the game just when they pulled the plug, it was kind of a shock to the community, where a lot of people were like, wait a second, what about the other stuff that you said you were going to do? So that is a very good point. And even as we were just discussing, a lot of those Star Wars Battlefront that tried to kind of diversify their content by going off to other Star Wars, they weren't as successful. And so you have a lot of these like channels that have big numbers of subscribers, but they're getting views that it's like less than me, right? Less than a channel of my size, which I'm at the 6K range, and you know what I mean? Like it really destroyed their channel. So now that's a very good point, that sometimes it is good to diversify. Even with me too. I mean, like I've been kind of stepping my toes, especially with Dead Rising, right? I mean, like, cause I am a Capcom creator, which is like a Capcom ambassador. I was actually going to mention to you, you definitely should, you should definitely look into joining Capcom Creators, but because you do get free things from them, cool collector's editions and stuff. But yeah, so I have been playing other types of games that are similar, but that was always kind of the plan, but always stick to Resident Evil. And I guess another thing that I would mention to what you were saying is that it's very hard with online games, right? I mean, when it comes to like something like Resident Evil, you could still make content on that because, Capcom is still very successful, especially with the whole boom of the remakes. So I'm a little better off. It's like, of course, Capcom just announced that they're working on a next Resident Evil game, and Resident Evil's been around for like what, 27? Are we going to 27 years now? So it's been a long time compared to other games that are just online. But definitely, like with those channels that were just working on online games, they took a huge hit. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And seeing that was kind of sad. It was kind of sad because some of the channels just ended up giving up. They didn't come back to to try
I
to diversify. Like they tried,
I
but yeah, yeah,
I think that low views is what personally hits a lot of creators hard, and
yeah,
it kind of destroys their mental health too. Big, I would say that probably the best tip I would say to expanding a channel is to probably do the content that you're known for, but
yeah,
then try to do other content on the side. Like try to
yeah, yeah,
ease your audience into the new content. Don't just give up the original content and just do
yeah,
new content, but like keep putting out the same content that you normally do, but just try to transition into some of the newer content over time. And I think that's probably the best. But I will say that when creators like they try to do something different, they try to do something they enjoy, and what happens is that their audience might not be as appreciating of that because they're just used to all the same content that they usually do, and their stuff is just going to get so much more less views, and so the creators just give up. It hits them. It hurts like mental health. It hurt me at the time too, like my mental health too. Like I would put a lot of work into videos, and for them not to really get that many views because it wasn't GTA, and for people like bothering me and just saying, when are you going to do GTA, when are you going to do GTA? And it was like it was like thinking to myself, like, do people really like watching my content for me, or do they just want to see GTA content? So like that, it just that I would say hurt me a bit too.
yeah, yeah. And another point to that as well that kind of adds to what you're saying as well is the fact that YouTube, I noticed, doesn't like it when you do something very different. So even if you're in a niche, for example, like GTA, or like in my case Resident Evil, if you do like a new style of video, like a different style, YouTube doesn't really like that because it almost seems as if the algorithm doesn't know who to give that video to. And especially like when it comes to new games, or when people are trying to, completely change their whole thing, it does seem like it almost feels like YouTube, the algorithm is punishing you. But I think, as you mentioned, I think it is better to kind of ease in to kind of do content. So like for me, I personally, like I've just started doing Dead Rising content, but they've all been getting really good views. So, and I think it's very easy too, because a lot of Resident Evil fans like Dead Rising, because it's the same company. It's, even the game Dead Rising has a lot of Easter eggs to Resident Evil, like Jill's sandwiches, like for one example. And the fact that now they're adding so many costumes from Resident Evil, so it's an easier transition to kind of go from Dead Rising. And I think personally for me, like I'm not a Silent Hill fan, but I've played some of the games growing up, but I would say Silent Hill is more on the horror side, but you have a lot of Resident Evil fans that play Silent Hill, and same, vice versa. But I would say Silent Hill is like more on the horror. Then you have Resident Evil, which is more like on the scientific side, where you have, like companies that are working on stuff. It's not supernatural. And then after you have Dead Rising, which is kind of a little beneath that, where it's a little more kind of happy. Well, as you stated, right, with Dead Rising 3 being a little more on the darker tone. But I mean, for Dead Rising 1 and Dead Rising 2, just the conversations that you have with the people, and you're around zombies and nobody cares. Or like, as you also brought that good point that Dead Rising 2 is more happy go lucky, and like the game kind of incentivizes you to play like poker in the middle of like of like a like a zombie outbreak, but everyone's cool with it. So stuff like that. But well, I mean the majority, because obviously you do have psychopaths, right, or the people, those are the characters or the villains in the games that just crack, which I think is a very interesting concept. But I guess the other thing that I also wanted to ask you too, in regards to you stating that in 2020, that's when you started. Because one thing that I noticed too in 2020, I think, or around that time when you decided to switch over to variety, is that you were playing a lot of Red Dead Redemption. And I noticed that some people were kind of the same group of people that you were saying, the small group of people that were kind of attacking you. Um, it did seem to me that your channel did skyrocket from that point on. I think it took, like you said, a year, I think, but then your channel did, I think, almost double the subscriber counts. Was it not? Or when did you reach 1 million subscribers? Because I remember before GTA, I think you reached like a limit, right, of GTA fans that were watching your comment, and then obviously your mental health you had to take into account. But when, yeah, wasn't it like that, or am I
I was
remembering wrong?
I'll tell you, is I was growing. I got up to 1 million subscribers. I think it was like 2021. That's when I think I hit 1 million subscribers. I hit
Yeah.
1,100,000 recently, so I hit 100
Yeah.
extra 100,000 recently. And previously before that, I was going up like 200, 300,000 subscribers. But I was fine that in 3 years I got 100,000 subscribers. It was much less subscribers than what I normally had in the past, but I was happy because I was it wasn't about the subscriber count for me. It was just about doing what I like doing, and I was happy
Yeah.
with the ad revenue that I was getting. I was happy with the money that I getting. I didn't necessarily need more. So I was just, happy that I was doing what I was doing instead of, being pressured to do, content that I didn't really necessarily feel like doing. And I would say this though, what helped my channel a lot, because I would say that out of my 1 million subscribers, I would say 1,100,000 subscribers, I would say 500,000 are probably from GT Online.
Yeah.
I would say that 300,000 are probably from the lore videos, which those have been very popular as well. And then we have like an extra 300,000 left. I would say that that 200,000 are probably at least from Red Dead, because when I look at the Red Dead videos, the analytics have thousands of subscribers. I'd say at least 100 to 200,000 are from Red Dead, and then the other 100,000 are from the playthroughs. That's what I would probably say about it. All the different playthroughs that I've done over the years. But yeah, if and I was really pissed about what happened in 2021 with Red Dead Online, because I was doing a lot of Red Dead content, a lot of Red Dead guides, and they were taking off, and they were actually doing really well. Like some of my Red Dead guides have like 250,000 views. Like they've done really well. And then all of a sudden, it was just Rockstar. Just it was like we knew that it was coming, but we didn't expect it to just come like that. Like Rockstar was just the updates were just garbage. Like GT Online was getting these giant, massive updates, like Cayo Perico, and Red Dead Online was getting like Bounty Hunter expansion. It was like seriously, like a few extra missions.
What was it? The something with the C, the word that they had for like money. I forgot what it was called.
Capitale.
Yeah, Capital. That's the update where I was like, what? Like, what is this? And I remember you making content on that. You were like, what is this garbage? Like, what is that? Yeah. But funny enough, your content for Red Dead Redemption actually got me into Red Dead 2. So, because I had no idea that, I remember I was a fan of the first Red Dead Redemption. I recently just got a platinum on it, the definitive or like the remaster that just released. But watching your content, watching your streams playing online with Red Dead, I was like, wow, I had no idea that this game, was even there. Like, obviously I knew Red Dead for the story, but not for the online. And the online was really good. And it's kind of similar to what we were discussing with Star Wars Battlefront. The devs did I would say there was like data mines of like YouTubers that were data mining Red Dead Online, and they did see a lot of stuff that we ended up getting, but there was still a lot more. Like they did have
Player
plans.
houses.
Yeah, and so I was actually just farming gold. So I think if I check my account, I'm pretty sure I have like 1,000 gold bars, like just waiting. Because I remember the data mine, right? Didn't they say that there's gonna have like 600 for like a whole mansion and stuff? But same thing, right? I mean, the company just ended up just it's just moving on to GTA 6 and taking very much in the same way that DICE did as well. What game did they work on? Was it Battlefield 2042 or was it something
DICE
else?
Battlefield 2042.
I see. And that ended up crashing.
When you really think about a game like Red Dead Online is an outlaw game where you can't rob banks. Just think about that. You can't rob people. So like that's like literally
And they show at the beginning, right? Like when you're first starting, it shows you like looking with like a bunch of guys, like a bunch of your friends, and it says this is the stuff that you'll be able to do, and you're using your binoculars to look at like the train.
There's a part in the intro cutscene. There's a part in the intro cutscene where there's a bunch of outlaws on a cliff, and they're waiting for a train. Like
that's the one I'm talking about.
The train. And I was like, you can't do this. And then remember the first mission in Red Dead Online when you meet those two, brothers that are involved with the horses, and you bring it to them, and then they're like, we'll have something for you in the future. Like, and they make it seem like there's gonna be some horse stealing DLC in the future, and it just never showed up. Never.
Or the fact that the story, like one of the things that I really thought was amazing with compared to GTA Online was RDO, like Red Dead Online, had like it had a campaign with like what was it called? What was the Jesse or something? I don't remember the lady's name.
Jessica Leclerc missions.
That's the one. And the fact
they
that
never finished it. They never finished the story.
Yeah, that was not done either, which is just kind of lazy, honestly. It's very lazy because it seems like they had so much, because there is a community for Red Dead. Like there's still, even to this day, there's people that are playing, what is it, like the R.P.D?
Yeah, my friend PvP Cats, he has, I don't know if you know him.
Yes,
he has been trying like really, he's been trying really badly to
Yeah.
to keep the community together. And I have to praise him because he has way more patience than me as well. Because I was just pissed with Reddit Online. Like I never fully gave up on Reddit Online, but I just stopped making like content for it. I still do
Yeah.
streams every week, but
Yeah.
there's nothing for me to make videos on. But PvP Cats, I have to give it to him. He has a lot of dedication, and he loves the game, and he still wants to keep making content for it. So I gotta give him praise for that. But it was
Yeah.
and I would say that Reddit Online, it's probably lost more than half its player base since it's been abandoned. It's just the community was just treated so badly. And I will tell you something. I will be making a video in the future, top 10 worst things that Rockstar Games has ever done, and number one on that list is going to be the abandonment of Reddit Online. And the reason I feel so strongly about that is because for nearly a year there was like petitions going around. I don't know if you've seen those petitions going around, thousands of signatures, like the hashtag Save Reddit Online, or people were going to Rockstar videos, hashtag Save Reddit Online, trying to tell Rockstar, please don't give up on this game, please. And that was before Rockstar even announced that it was canceled. Like, but at that point we knew they just didn't care, and we were putting those hashtags out. And I remember is some people were saying, oh, Rockstar, there's people defending Rockstar saying, oh, Rockstar doesn't know about this. It's like, come on. You gotta be kidding me. Like thousands of comments appearing on their videos, like on Twitter, hashtag Save Reddit Online, like news articles, popping up talking, like the gaming media even started talking about it. And whenever Rockstar did do an interview about Reddit Online, we noticed that the questions that they always got were like really easy questions. They were never like tough questions, like why are you not doing content for this game? Why are you ignoring your audience? It was because I think that Rockstar, personally, my prediction on it is I think they ask for pre-screened questions, and they will not give interviews. Like if there's the company out there will say like, why did you abandon? They're cancel, not do an interview. I think that's probably why I think the questions were probably like softball questions. I don't know if you heard about that controversy. There was actually a guy on Twitter who posted a picture of Reddit Online, and then he said that Red Dead Redemption 2 is the most beautiful game I've ever played, and the comment got like hundreds of likes. And what happened was Rockstar Games official Twitter actually liked and shared, reposted that tweet. But the thing they didn't look at is at the very bottom of that guy's tweet, he posted hashtag Save Reddit Online. And Rockstar did not even pay attention to that part. And then when they realized it, Rockstar just unliked it. They unliked it and they stopped sharing that post. And that
I forgot about
that. They
knew
about it and they ignored it. And so the fact that you had an entire community of people that were just begging you to make content for the game, and you treat the community like this, just like garbage like this. And the fact that what also pissed me off about this is how toxic the GTA community was getting about this, because the GTA community, a lot of them were saying, "Oh, well, GTA Online is more popular. It makes sense that they would abandon Reddit Online." And they're like, "Oh, they need the people for GTA 6." It's like, first of all, Rockstar Games is a multi-billion-dollar company. If you don't have people to develop Reddit Online, hire people to develop Reddit Online. If you don't have it, you have plenty of money. You have enough people to put it on people work on GTA Online, Reddit Online, and on GTA 6. You definitely have enough people for that. And if you don't, hire them. It's as simple as that. They have plenty of money, plenty of resources. And also, what people don't know is that GTA Online was going to get canceled in 2014. Because GTA Online, the amount of people playing that game, the numbers were just so low. Like in 2014, like it dropped so much. But what changed that was the Heist update that came out in March of 2015. When that update came out in March of 2015, Sony players came back to the game and they still kept developing it. And if you look at Reddit Online, it's the same thing. The first year or two, the views, the player count was dropping on it. But then, if you look when they started adding updates, and they added the Frontiers Pursuit update, like Bounty Hunter, Collector, Trader, views and players skyrocketed. And if you look at Moonshiner, when Moonshiner update came out, skyrocketed too. Like people were playing it, people were coming back to the game. So Reddit Online didn't fail because it was an unprofitable game. It failed because the developer didn't do content for it. It's as simple as that. If you don't do content for a game, people are not going to be interested in the game. You're not going to keep the attention span of people playing it, and they're just going to stop playing it. They're going to give up on it. That's pretty much what had happened Reddit Online. And look, what I'll say about Rockstar in the end here, wrapping up Reddit Online, is that even if it was the case where the game was completely unprofitable and they were not going to make any more money for it, what they should have done is they should have just done one final big update just for the fans. That's just what they should have done. They should have just said, they should have said, we're not gonna make any more updates, but in exchange for that, we're gonna give you guys, to reward the people who kept playing it and the people who liked the game and supported our content, we're gonna give you guys one final big update. We're gonna give you guys a bunch of bank robberies, train robberies, player houses, the abilities to build up your houses and finish the Jessica Leclerc story. If they just made one final big update, adding player homes, bank robberies, and finishing up the Jessica Leclerc storyline, the backlash would not have been as bad. But that's the fact that the developer, it's like I felt like they spit in the faces of the fans. They just basically said, "Oh, we're just canceling it. Not going to give you player houses. Not going to finish the Jessica Leclerc storyline. Here's Telegram missions. This is what we're going to give you as the final update."
Yeah,
Missions.
and you know what?
So
it kind of reminds me too. I think during that same time, because I was actually watching PvP Cat because I really liked his content, and then you guys did end up collabing as well. I remember you guys were talking about the whole Red Dead remaster as well. I think about a year ago. But yeah, I was watching his content. One thing I think he covered as well, or maybe it was you, because I was watching both of your guys' channels at the same time, is I remember 2 investor meetings. They had investor meetings where they had all the people and some of the investors would ask directly to like the Rockstar representatives, like, "Hey, what's happening with Red Dead Online? Are you guys going to be posting more content?" And I remember that Rockstar kept saying that they were. But then that's when we had the Capitale mess where they were just kind of, giving us really lame stuff where they were kind of recycling a bunch of like what was it, like the passes, the outlaw passes. And we were getting like outlaw pass 1, 2, and 3, which is fine for any like not when there's like an update that's supposed to happen in summer or like in winter, right? Like, or isn't it like for GTA, I think it's winter, and then for Red Dead it was summer or something like that, right?
GTA. It's always July and December, but this year it was June, so it's July and December. Those are typically the months that they have an update in GTA, and
yeah,
that's pretty much it is GTA and GTA Online. To be fair, has been getting smaller updates, but even the smallest updates on GTA Online are still way better than the smallest updates on Red Dead Online. They're just still much better.
I think I heard that there was a bounty hunter mission. I was actually going to watch your video on that and how was that? Was that like a very, because I honestly, I was playing GTA Online for a long time, but then after when RDO released, that's when I started playing a lot of that, and I kind of left GTA Online behind because honestly, I thought RDO was just a better game. Like even like the fighting and stuff was way better than online, and I guess just years of playing, because I started playing GTA Online I think back in like 2014 or 15. So not the first year when what you were mentioning with the heists and stuff, but a little bit later. But I think I just kind of got old. It got really old. Not really anything. The Cayo Perico heist though, that one was really big. I remember playing that one. But after that, I think there was like another like a garage update. Like the updates have been very small compared to what they used to do. But I guess that's just because GTA 6 they're working on that, right? So even the resources that they were allocating from RDO to GTO, now they're putting it into GTA 6, right? I imagine that's probably what's going on there. But
the last big update that we had for GTA was December of 2021 with the contract DLC, that Franklin DLC.
Yeah,
Franklin comes back and yes,
that's right. Yeah,
that was really the last big update that we had. We had like Auto Shop, I guess, and we had Drug Wars, but it didn't have that same charm that that contract DLC had. It didn't have contract was just a much more better DLC.
It was more like buy a new place, but here's the thing, it was almost like a recycled version of what like other businesses, right? The other businesses that we've had. And actually I want to read some of the chats. Sorry guys, I've missed a bunch of chats. Sorry about that. We were really getting into to discussion, but after we catch up with the chats, I do want to go over to Dead Rising. We'll kind of discuss Dead Rising, kind of the main topic of the stream. But I guess we'll read real quick. I'm actually going to start here. GTA franchise, very fun to doubt about that. It's honestly annoying when GTA fanboys get salty about GTA known creators playing something different. That's very true. I also noticed that you mentioned this as well. You kind of hinted at this, that there was a lot of people that would trash RDO because they're like, oh, you can't even like you only buy like a horse and whatnot. Or what are they going to add? They're going to add like a carriage and just stuff that was not very nice to the RDO. And you would think that Rockstar, like a Rockstar community, would kind of have each other's backs, but it did almost feel like a separation, right? I had a similar situation with my channel when I used to cover Watch Dogs Legion a lot when the game was being supported and shifted to Dying Light content after Watch Dogs Legion was abandoned. Yeah, that was a very quick abandonment, right? I was actually thinking of, I was looking into the game.
It was a year and a half only, I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was even less than that.
I remember you covering it.
Yeah.
I'm
eventually going to have a video actually covering that with Zom right there. I know him. He's a friend of mine. And we're going to eventually have a video together on talking about that, how but Watch Dogs Legion Online, I had high hopes for the game. I knew it was never going to surpass GTA Online. I didn't expect that, but I was hoping that we could have somewhat of a competitor, because that was the first time in really forever that we have gotten a open world online crime game that was a competitor to GTA. Because Watch Dogs Legion Online was a competitor to GTA Online. It was.
Yeah.
It was like there was really no other, competitor out there, and I think people are personally scared of competing with Rockstar.
Or even, I remember you covering Saints Row, and I remember you reacting to the first trailer, because I had never played Saints Row, and so me kind of seeing it through your eyes as like a longtime fan of the series, I was actually kind of shocked to see that the nightmare that ended up happening. I saw you play through the whole game. It was not a good game, but very similar with that. I remember you were stating like, I hope Saints Row is good when the game got announced, like before the trailer release. And I remember you stating something like along the lines that, Rockstar needs competitors, because competition does breed, innovation. It does breed, everyone getting better to rise to the top. So at the end, with competition, you get better games. But yeah, Zombie also said, when Ubisoft stopped Watch Dogs, it wasn't good on my channel, and I had to switch my content. Thank you so much for subscribing, Alex Diekman. Zombie says, I hope Capcom goes back to making Dead Rising 5. After they do one of the remasters for older Dead Rising games, Capcom can learn from Techland's Dying Light with Dead. Yeah, you know what? That was something that I actually brought up. Have you actually seen the leaked gameplay footage of Dead Rising Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead?
No, I don't think I have. I don't think I have watched it.
It seems like Capcom was kind of thinking of going, because you remember in Dead Rising 1, the lore of the game is that, Santa Cabeza, which translates to holy head, for those of you that don't know. Santa Cabeza, that's where, the whole kind of nightmare starts, right? Or not the nightmare, but, the infection. That's where it began. It seemed like Dia de los Muertos, and the little footage that you can actually see if you Google it, it seemed like it was actually going to be Chuck. The game was going to be about Chuck going to Mexico. And that's about it. That's everything that we had. In fact, some of the people...
Was it going to be in Santa Cabeza?
I think so. But you know what? I actually don't remember where... And maybe you can answer this, but do you remember where Santa Cabeza was located?
Santa Cabeza is in Central America. It's not
I
part
see.
of Mexico, but they never said what country Santa Cabeza was in.
Well, I mean...
They never said...
You know what? That's actually another good point, too, is that I remember in university in my geography class, I remember asking my professor, is Mexico considered Central or North America? And she said something very interesting. She said that that's been a topic, like an ongoing debate between other geographers. So, I mean, technically, going along with, what my professor was saying back in uni, you could technically say that Mexico was part of Central America. And if that's the case, it would be interesting maybe if Chuck went to Santa Cabeza, right? Because as you mentioned, we don't know the exact location of it. But I don't know, it looked like a very cool game. The whole design of it looked very nice with the little footage that you can see. But yeah, if the one thing that I'll say right now is that if Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster ends up selling really well, I do hope that Capcom changes their outlook and maybe starts working on that game that was happening, because that game looked really cool. And especially since I'm a huge fan of Chuck, and I have seen footage that Chuck does appear in Dead Rising 3. Correct me if I'm wrong, is that the case? Because you've played Dead Rising 3.
He does. He appears in the very final chapter of the game.
I see.
Pretty much I think it's overtime mode when it happens is when he appears. He's an ally. And you go after the final boss with him, basically. But yeah, the parasite that causes the zombies comes from Santa Cabeza. That is basically its origins. And so it would have been interesting, seeing the town and stuff like that. And there was a very big twist with Isabella in Dead Rising 3 that I think that would have probably explained. But that twist of Isabella was never explained in Dead Rising 4. They never explained it.
Yeah, I see that. That's interesting. Yeah, because what it looked like, it seemed like you were going through the jungle. So it wasn't just like you were like in Mexico City or something, right? Along those, it wasn't like a city. It looked like with the footage that you could see was just going through like the bush, right? You're going through the jungle and going through. So yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, it also kind of begs the question, what was Chuck doing there? And was it before the events of Dead Rising 3? Because that's another question I also had. What year does Dead Rising 3 take place? Because Chuck looks way older, right? I don't even know
Dead Rising 3. Hang on, I will check the Dead Rising wiki right now because I remember that Chuck was 29 years old in Dead Rising 2, which I actually didn't think he looked like. Yeah, I
Wait,
didn't think that
what?
he looked like he was 29. Yeah,
Wait,
he was.
that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Chuck never seemed to me like he was 29 in Dead Rising 2. Honestly, it seemed to me like he was in his late 30s. That's what it seemed like to me. It didn't seem like he was 29 at all, but he was
Yeah.
29 in Dead Rising 2. And in Case Zero, he's only 26 years old in Case Zero, which I
Wow.
thought that was very, because he looks identical in Case Zero and Dead Rising 2. In Dead Rising 3, he is 39 years old. In Dead Rising
Wow,
3.
he looks really rough
And
for 39. I don't know. He looked like he was in his 50s, and when I saw, but I guess maybe it's due to the graphics of like Dead Rising 2, because Dead Rising 2, I always thought that he was like in his 40s or something.
yeah, I'm looking at
Yeah,
a picture of Chuck in Dead Rising 3. He literally looks like he's in his late 40s. So
yeah,
I
and
know. I guess
we're
it's
the
just
same
weird.
age, right? Like you're in you're 30, right?
I'm 30. Yes.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, 94. And it's crazy that it's like, wait, Chuck is technically younger than us, and he I don't know, he looks he's not, he doesn't look good. Hopefully if they do a Dead Rising 2 kind of deluxe remaster that,
Maybe the stress of the zombie outbreak had aged him.
yeah, the loss of his wife, right? And that's another thing too that I also didn't like. I didn't like that that Dead Rising, for example, Dead Rising, like the remaster collection that they kind of released in 2016 with Dead Rising 1, Dead Rising 2, Dead Rising Off the Record. It was crazy that they didn't add Case Zero and Case West in those things. I
I
mean
think
that.
it's because they were only Xbox exclusives. I think that's because they had some kind of deal with
Mm,
Microsoft.
yeah, because I was waiting to play that because, as mentioned, I'm a PlayStation guy and I have never experienced that, but I'm probably gonna have to now. Wait, is it only for Xbox? That's right. It's not for PC
Yeah.
either.
Yeah,
Wow.
and Case Zero, I think, was rated as like the best marketplace game that was like $5. I think it was like $5. It
Mm,
was like voted as like the best game ever that was $5. I think that's what it was.
that's
So it
crazy.
would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you have to buy an Xbox like 360. And also, wait, didn't Xbox 360 just recently shut down their stores? So I guess it's lost forever, right? I think it just
I
happened just
don't
4 weeks
know.
ago. I think they announced that they're shutting down Xbox Live. That's crazy. Yeah. So you.
Xbox Marketplace shut down. I don't. I would have to look this up, but I hope not
Yeah.
because I eventually want to do a playthrough of those games, and I
Yeah.
really hope I can still get them.
Did you ever play them before? And was
I
it
did.
co-op?
I did play them. Yeah, I did play them, but I played it on a very old Xbox account. I don't think I even have that old Xbox account anymore because it's like
Mm,
so many years ago. It was like 15 years ago, and I didn't even
yeah.
remember I didn't remember what email I used for it and the password, and so that account is like pretty much lost. Because I hadn't been on Xbox in like literally a decade, and it was
Yeah.
like some old email that I'd used a long time ago, and so I did play them. I did beat them. I do remember the story. It was like the Case Zero. It was like right when the Las Vegas outbreak happens, and then Chuck gets in that small town. The guy steals his truck, and he has to find Zombrex and get Katie out before the military comes. And then Case West, I remember, was after Dead Rising 2, after ending B in Dead Rising 2. Because
Mm,
it was kind of weird where it was always ending S was always the canon ending in the Dead Rising games, but ending B I think was the canon ending in Dead Rising 2. And so it was right after that Chuck and Frank, they go to the Phenotrends facility, and then they meet Isabella, and then they fight that big guy.
yeah.
I remember
I,
that.
I
Yeah.
s- I remember seeing a playthrough, just like really I skimmed over the playthrough because I just wanted to see what it was like generally about. But I'm actually getting comments right now of chatters that are saying, yes, K0 and West was cool too. The store is still up until the 29th. So it is getting shut down. Yeah, July 29th, I believe, Zombie says Xbox 360 market is shutting down. But Jay states that K0 and West are backwards compatible. So they'll still be on the store even when it's
Wait,
shut down.
so after the 29th, will I still be able to purchase it?
Yeah.
The games?
By backwards compatible, do you mean that we can buy it with like for example, if I have an Xbox Series X or whatever, like the newest Xbox, or do you mean like for Xbox One? Because I'm a PlayStation guy, so I really don't know, guys. But yeah, let us know because honestly, I definitely want to know. Thank you so much, Media Watcher, for subscribing, guys. I'm just gonna run through the chats real quick. I don't really like leaving chats So we'll just read really quickly, guys. Zombie says, I hope Capcom goes back to making Dead Rising 5. Oh, yeah, we read that. Says, I used to watch Pro's GTA and Red Dead content, but I watch him for different games now because I like seeing his reaction to other games. Definitely. He says, gotta love the Jill sandwich Easter egg in Dead Rising 1. Yeah. Leon says, then there's RE7 in Village. Oh, I think that's when we were talking about Resident Evil. It says, Project Wesker, have you tried any of the Dying Light games? They feel like Dead Rising and Dead Island combined with awesome dynamic day and night cycles. No, you know what? That's actually something that I have to do. I have to play the Dying Light games. I've heard the first one is amazing, and the second one has some issues. But I want to definitely cover that on the channel someday. Jay says, got the professional in the building, goats. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, professional, for stopping by to chat with us. Zombie says, it's literally been almost a year since RD1 port. Yeah. I think, whoa, wait a second. It came out in November, I think, right? So I think
No,
we're getting
I think it was
close.
August. I think it
August?
was August when it came. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, somewhere around there. So dang, that's great. Yeah, we're fast approaching. Virus the Virus says, yeah, he's just spitting facts about Red Dead Online. Thank you so much, Virus the Virus, for stopping by. That's actually a fellow Resident Evil creator. Always appreciate when you stop by, man. Yeah, Jay says, that's real talk. Rockstar's too lazy and greedy. LOL. SMH. That's when we were talking about the Red Dead. Says, it's why I left the GTA community because of how toxic it is. I will return when GTA 6 releases and when the marketing for the game picks up. Guarma RDO update should have happened as well. Like, yes, Zombie. I forgot about the Guarma DLC. Yeah, to kind of go over there. And I think also, I remember PvP Cat kind of found a way to go in there, right? Like, he went to Mexico. That's another thing, too, that RDO was missing, was you had, like, the sections that they could have made to go to Mexico. That would have been amazing.
When you think about it, imagine if Rockstar released a Mexico map expansion for Red Dead Online.
That would have been amazing.
The thing is, though, is that even the people who absolutely hate Red Dead Online and only play single player would have played Red Dead Online just for the Mexico map expansion. So if they actually added a Mexico map expansion, that would actually bring back like 90% of the players if they did that. But nope, they're not going to do it. They've abandoned the game. They've forgotten about it. It's done.
Yeah. You know what? I'm actually going to write down a question real quick. If we have time, I'll ask you later on. But this is just an extra question, kind of talking about RDO, but just specifically something that I want to talk to you that, maybe if we have time, I want to cover that. But anyways, going back, we'll just read the chat real quick. We're almost caught up. It says Red Dead Online should have been supported as long as GTA Online. Definitely.
Yes. Agreed.
Says, yes, WDL Online was like GTA Online, but with a different twist with the operatives play as anyone. It had unique concept. Oh, was that Watch Dogs? I see. Yeah. Watch Dogs Legions. Jay says Dead Rising 5 was gone. Be like Dark Souls. LO. Yeah, it was so sad because, like I said, Dead Rising Dia de los Muertos looked amazing. Like, it looked good. Zombie actually says, yeah, the canceled game actually had some Dying Light styled environments with zip lines on rooftops. Yeah, I mean, Pro, you're definitely going to have to check that out after. I'm definitely not going to showcase it on stream because, as mentioned, it's Capcom's like canceled stuff. It is a leak. So I definitely don't want to show that. I don't want to get in trouble with Capcom since I'm in good graces with them. So Ronan Ghost, how's it going, Ronan? Thank you so much for stopping by. It says, one thing I don't like about Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster is that they made Larry white when the original, yes, we're actually going to talk about that later on. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for that. Ronan says, if we get Dead Rising 2 Deluxe Remaster, we could see bundled with Case Zero and Case West. Yes, I was actually going to bring that up as well. That's a very good point. And you know what? This is why I've been mentioning in my videos, definitely support this Deluxe Remaster. Obviously, if it turns out to be good, but by the looks of it, it looks like it's going to be amazing. So Zombie says Chuck sees his daughter Katie grown up in Dead Rising 3. Yeah, that's actually a question that I had too, because I've never played Dead Rising 3 Pro. But is Katie the one that's dating the main protagonist in Dead Rising 3?
Yes, she changed her name in that. So it's just that she's called Annie in that. Like Annie, Katie, I guess she just changed it to because it was still very similar, but
yeah. Media Watcher, thank you so much for super chatting $5. Says if DR2 remake is a thing, they can add Case Zero as the prologue and Case West as DLC where we can play as Frank similar to separate ways in RE4 remake. Dude, that would be amazing. Yeah. Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, definitely. That's exactly what Ronan was mentioning as well. Dead Rising 1 had the best look for me. I hope they remastered the other games too. Yeah, you know what? That was actually something that my brother kind of brought up, was that Dead Rising 2 had a very different look to the game. It almost looked like even like the models looked like they were like Play-Doh-esque. I don't know how else to explain it. It almost seemed like, I don't know, like everything was oversaturated, just different saturations of compared to Dead Rising 1, where it looked a little more realistic. Obviously the facial animations were really bad in 2006, but other than that, it looked better, and that's what my brother was stating. Yeah, Chuck seemed like he was 40 in DR2. He must have been off the drugs. Yeah, probably due to the trauma. I'm so sad. Even to this day, Dead Rising 3 isn't even on PlayStation. Yeah, Case Zero and West, cool too. The store is still up until 29th. Oh yeah, we read that. Yep, we're cool with that. Case Zero was very cool at the time. Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes of its day. Oh, interesting. Yes, you can even after 360 store is. Oh, wait. So this is when my viewers were responding to the thing. So you can. Okay, so you can buy Case West and Case Zero even after the 360 store is closed down. Can you only buy that on Xbox One or Xbox Series X? Can you do both? Because if you can do both, that's amazing. Zombie says, I remember when PS3 store was being shut down, but Backlash stopped it from happening. I think PS3, yeah, it's still up. That's crazy too, that Xbox is shutting down just in a couple of days, but PS3 was going to do that last year, I
That's definitely
believe.
not going to help them, especially the problems that Microsoft has had. I don't know how shutting that down is going to help them even more.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point. Yes, Microsoft has not been doing well with games. Like PlayStation has been crushing it lately. Jay says, because any games that are backwards compatible just goes to the Xbox One / Xbox Series X store. Oh, so you're all good. Okay, thank you so much, Jay, for letting us know. It's only the non-compatible, backward compatible games that aren't being able to be purchased anymore. Interesting, I see. And and I correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the majority of the games like they are backward compatible? So I guess there are some games that
Yes.
you're saying bye to forever, sadly. But I mean, that's very good. Okay, so if you, yeah, so you can definitely play it on an Xbox One or a Series X/S, right? So that's good news. Yeah, because I definitely want to try that on the channel. Even though I don't have an Xbox, I might have to buy like an Xbox One or something, or even an Xbox Series X. We'll see. Dying Light was buggy at release, but now the game is much more stable and a lot of new things to do. Okay, guys, we're almost caught up. He says, yeah, a lot of new things and content updates were all free. Salute to both of y'all for doing y'all thing. This is real dope collab, brothers. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, as mentioned, to a professional for stopping by. Red Dead Revolver should get a remake. That's a very good point. What do you think on that, Pro? What do you think? Should that be the
I would
next?
definitely be open to playing that. I've never actually played Red Dead Revolver, and so it's been a requested game on my channel, so I could
Oh,
play that again in the future too.
you should definitely. Yeah, that's actually was my first introduction to Red Dead. Was the first one, right? The Red Dead Revolver. Playing that on PS2 with as a kid was so cool. And if anything, I will say, especially since you haven't played it without spoiling or spoiling anything, is that Red Dead Revolver seems almost like spaghetti westerns. So like the good, the bad, and the ugly. A fistful of dollars for a fist for a few dollars more. It does seem more like that type of genre compared to RDR1 and RDR2, which is more Americanized. For some reason, Red Dead Revolver seems like the overall look is that they wanted to have that style. So even like with the cutscenes or the locations, it does seem like it's taking place in like the deserts of Spain. So in the desert of Spain. So it does look more on that front, even though it does take place in America, but it's more in that stylized spaghetti western esque. So if you like those spaghetti westerns, then you'll definitely like Red Dead Revolver. And I will say the Deadeye, not the Deadeye, but the dueling, system was very nice in the first one. It was actually a little more, I don't know, it was a little more nicer than the dueling that can be found in Red RDR1 and RDR2. I think mostly because RDR1 did something very strange where they wouldn't give you like they wouldn't tell you how to do it. I think it was only like one time, and then you were kind of just screwed.
Yeah,
Like,
it was confusing.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I guess RDR Revolver was very simple. It was very simple, and it felt really nice. But that's just something that I remember as a kid. So you'll definitely enjoy it. Yeah, I'm actually hyped. Yeah, when are you thinking of playing that, or just
I
later?
don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not even this year, because this year I already have
Mhm.
like a set of playthroughs that I've planned.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
September is going to be all Capcom. September is going to be Ace Attorney Investigations remake and Dead Rising remake.
I see. So you know what? I was actually going to ask you too, because I've never played an Ace Attorney game. But which one do you think I should? Which one would you recommend to start out with? Is it the remake
The
that's coming out?
original trilogy. The original
Mm,
trilogy. It got a remake too.
I
If you
see.
just look up the Phoenix Wright trilogy, look up the
I see.
Phoenix Wright trilogy. That is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one you want to start with. Yep, that one.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. Yeah, because I remember you talk. I remember you talking a lot about that game, and I've never played that, but I've never played
You
the
could
Ace
also
Attorneys.
play Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. You don't have to play the other ones before that. It's Great Ace Attorney Chronicles 1 and 2. It got a remake too. That
Mm,
remake got 2021. That game, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, is like a massive prequel. It actually takes place like 130 years beforehand. So it's like even before World War One. It's like trials like a long time ago. And
I
so
see.
that's it's not the characters in that game are like ancestors of the characters in the modern Ace Attorney games, but there's no really link between them.
I see. And were those the Ace Attorney games that were exclusive to like the 3DS for a long time, or is that where were the
I'm not sure.
3DS?
I know that Chronicles 2, I don't think ever got translated until recently.
I see. I see. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll definitely try out. What was the Ace Attorney trilogy you were mentioning? Yeah, I'll definitely
Ace
check that out.
Attorney Phoenix Wright trilogy.
Yes. Yes. Phoenix, right? I'll definitely do that. Let's. Well, guys, we're almost caught up. It says just like Saints Row 3 and 4 looks faker than 1 and 2. LOL. Both Xbox One and Series. Z says Mason Reyes in the house. One of my viewers. Thanks for subscribing to Project Wesker. Oh, thank you so much, Mason. Appreciate it. Jay says it's one of the games that aren't backward compatible, but yeah, most of them are other good ones. I see. Play OG RE4 Professional. Yes, yes, that's definitely something that I recommend. Even if you don't, right, you're not really into Resident Evil. I know that a lot of your we were talking about that before. I did recommend Resident Evil 4 Remake. I think you'll definitely like it. If you end up playing it, obviously not because you're super busy with playthroughs this year, but later on, definitely even if you play the remake, you should play the OG as well because they're both different, but not too different. Obviously, the story is more similar, but it's definitely worth playing the they did remaster it, so you can play the you don't have to get the PS2 version, right, or the GameCube. You can play the on PS4. Yeah. Gun is good too. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that's a game that I never played. I've always seen it, but I've heard good things about this. Jay says after the stream where I asked Professional played Dead Rising not too long after the deluxe Room got announced. That's crazy. That yeah, you know what's funny too is that my brother actually was playing Dead Rising for the very first time. Like, and then the week that they had basically announced that Dead Rising was releasing, I was like, yeah, that's crazy timing. And on top of also my viewer also was streaming it as well. So since you like survival horror action games like Resident Evil, Dead Rising, Dying Light would be a great game for you. Yeah, I'll definitely try it out. Yeah, the MVC collection. How you doing, Mason? Capcom on a roll right now. Yes. Yeah. So what other Capcom games are you also thinking of playing, Pro? Because you said whatchamacallit, Ace Attorney, the remake.
Ace Attorney Dead Rising, maybe Mega Man Legends 2, and then Misadventures of Tron Bonne. I could come back to playing those two one day.
Oh, wait. I thought you were saying that there was a remaster or something of Mega Man Legends, but no, you're just thinking of playing the OG.
That would be cool if that was.
Yeah, Capcom is they need to do that. Like I don't know if you're aware, Pro, but recently they actually Capcom did several Capcom polls, and a lot of the games that people wanted to come back was obviously people wanted more Resident Evil remakes, but on top of that, they were also Onimusha. Have you ever played Onimusha?
No.
Onimusha is like it's kind of, I don't know, the first one did feel very much like Resident Evil, but with like you're like in like ancient Japan, like 16th century Japan with samurais, and you're fighting these like spirits or whatever, these yokai of what they call it. But what was weird is that I never played Onimusha 2, but Onimusha 3 was more on the action side, still very fixed camera angles, but that's a game that people wanted, as well as Devil May Cry as well. But there's so many games. Mega Man Legends was one of them, and I'm trying to think the other one. Obviously Dead Rising. People wanted Dead Rising. It was very small in the list of things, but yeah, so it's crazy that they ended up doing that. And Dino Crisis as well, as we discussed before. How you doing, Amazing? I played both RE4 Remake and the original, got all the achievements too. Yeah, that's awesome. Same. Doing all right. Yeah, RE4 is a good start for Resident Evil. Alberto PR, thank you so much for stopping by. It says Capcom has been killing it for past years, and their games are 100. Yeah, they're fire. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, crazy timing, LOL. All right, guys. Well, that's basically we're caught up. Zombie did mention Dying Light, so I'll definitely check it out as mentioned. But guys, now we'll actually move on to our Dead Rising. Even though we were kind of just talking about it, we'll really officially move on to the Dead Rising section. So, for starters, the first thing that I actually wanted to talk to you about was kind of the thing. Yeah. Well, before we get to that, I do want to actually ask you your take on the whole remake / deluxe remaster. What's your thoughts on it? Do you think Dead Rising is a remake or a remaster? Because I've been hearing so many arguments in my videos. Yeah,
it's a remake. It should just be called Dead Rising Remake. And have you seen like the special edition? It's like the name of it is so stupid. It's like Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster Digital Deluxe Edition, whatever it was. It's like, and like seriously, that's the title of the game. Like that's bad. It's just call it Dead Rising Remake. That's it.
You know what I think is that, because I saw you say that in your video, which was super hilarious, because you were like, what did he just say? And you rewinded, which is hilarious. But I never noticed that. But the thing that I wanted to mention is that it probably seems like it's an error with translation. So in Japanese, I don't know if it's called Digital Deluxe. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, if you know the original Japanese name. Maybe it's called something else. Maybe it's called Premium Edition or something, or Premium Remaster. But it might be something due to translation, because that seems like marketing. Obviously, Capcom is a Japanese company, so they are going to have a lot of Japanese in their titling and stuff. But I wonder if maybe marketing for Japan kind of screwed up, because that's really bad. Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster Digital Deluxe Edition. That's crazy, right? So, yeah. But I think it's interesting that you also mentioned that it's a remake. One thing that I've also seen a lot of people that were arguing before, because one thing that I noticed right away was that I was calling it a remake way before we actually had word at the Capcom Next event, where the director actually just spoke and said, no, this is let me actually bring up his quote specifically, because you know what? I've seen a lot of people try to argue. And even the director stated this. Now, obviously, he was speaking Japanese, but this was the official translation that Capcom gave out in the thing. But it says, well, actually, it would be an exaggeration. It wouldn't be an exaggeration. So let me start over. Well, actually, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call this a game a remake, considering the work we put into it. I think that kind of just... like that right there is the director basically saying that you can call it a remake. And another thing too that I also didn't understand is that even at the start of the game, if you played Dead Rising 1, as soon as you start the game, like I played I'm doing a playthrough of the OG at this moment on the channel, and when you're in the helicopter and you're going through the trees literally just look like polygons on top of a mountain. Like it's just green polygon, like carpet.
I didn't even realize there was trees. I thought it was just fields. Like
yeah. But in the remake, there's like actual trees. Like you can actually see trees, pine trees or whatever. Obviously, the game takes place in Colorado, right? In Willamette, Colorado. Is that actually a real place? That was something that
Willamette. I don't think Willamette is a real place. But Colorado does have like a lot of really small towns in the mountains. Colorado's a mountain state. There's a lot of woods, and so there's going to be like small isolated towns in the middle of nowhere. I mean, that's what South Park is too. South Park is a small town in the middle of Colorado. So it's it was like it's kind of like a state. And Colorado has some really big cities like Denver and Colorado Springs, but then there are those small towns that are just like in between, like in the mountains, like very isolated. Not a lot of people go there. Not a lot of people live there, and like Willamette was like one of those places.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I guess but my point with the trees was that it seems like obviously a lot of the arguments that I kept seeing in videos was people basically saying that no, a remake is basically when you're making a whole game from scratch, and I'm like, all right, like the game engine is fully from scratch, and I'm like, all right, but it seems like if before there were no trees and now there's trees. It seems like that's not just like a color, like it's not just like a mod. You know what I mean? Kind of like similar with the definitive edition for GTA. Now I haven't played the definitive collection or editions, but was that kind of made from the ground up, or was that just like a mod? Did it was everything the same
for GTA?
Yeah. What was that like?
It was kind of like everything was pretty much the same. They just took the graphics and just.
Was like a filter, like
It wasn't. It wasn't. It didn't feel to me like a new engine. Like the definitive edition, it doesn't run on a new engine. It runs on pretty much the same. I'm pretty certain. I'm not an expert on it, but I'm pretty certain it
Yeah,
runs on
yeah.
a different engine. It's the same engine that the original ones, but it was just like it was like changed, like the same engine, but like the graphics were just changed a bit. That's what it seemed like
Yeah,
to me.
yeah, the graphical, but the difference I think that I noticed with Dead Rising is that obviously it's not you're not just changing a couple of things. Like you're not just putting like a filter over. You're not just putting a different skin over people. It does seem like they've done a huge like they've actually put extensive work where like as mentioned before there were no trees on the mountains. There was nothing. You thought it was like fields. And now they actually added trees. They actually added stuff. And not only that, but even like when they were doing the Capcom Next event, they were discussing the whole process,
But
adding like light with the RE engine. But yeah, what were you gonna
let
say?
me ask you this: the Resident Evil remakes,
Yeah.
did they bring in new voice actors for everyone in the Resident Evil remakes?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Every single one. Yeah.
okay, yeah. So, in the Dead Rising remake, do you happen? I know that TJ isn't coming back to voice Frank West,
Yeah.
but like the other characters, is it going to be the same people voicing them? Like, are they reusing the lines, or are they re-recording everything again?
I think they're re-recording everything again. But you know what? Now that I think about it,
Brad sounded very similar to me. Like when I heard Brad, because I know he only has like one part of dialogue, but
yeah.
it seemed like very similar to me of the original voice actor that played as him.
Yeah, I guess my argument to that would be with Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. I don't know if you've seen footage on Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, but that game, they've announced from the start that that game is going to have the same, they're using the same exact voice lines. It's not even like they're having the actors come back and redo their lines. Konami has actually announced that no, they're just reusing the same lines that they shot back in.
So it's taking the audio and just putting it with the remake.
Yeah, and putting it in a remake, but there's no denying that Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater is still a remake, even though it's built from the ground up. Like the whole game is completely different.
And in the Resident Evil remakes,
Yeah.
Are the cutscenes identical, or are
No.
there like a few things in the story that are different?
No, everything is different. And I guess that kind of just
Yeah,
leads me
and
to...
I hope that they do that with the Dead Rising remake. I hope they improve things a little bit more. I hope they change a few things in the cutscenes too. One thing that I did want them to change in the Dead Rising remake, we don't want to, I think, spoil this for people who haven't played it, but that scene with Jesse and Barnaby, and then later what happens to Jesse, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
This very end of the game, Jesse's final scene, like, you know what happens to soldiers.
Yeah.
And so, like we kind of have an understanding of basically what happened with the lore of her and Barnaby, but I hope that with the remake, they kind of explain that a little bit more, that they, go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, and coming at it from a Resident Evil perspective, it's worth noting that something that's very strange that even in the Resident Evil community is that everybody calls Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4. We all say Resident Evil Remake. So we actually call it RER whatever 3, 4, 2. Or even the first remake that was back in 2002. But what's interesting is that the new remakes that have just started with Resident Evil 2 Remake back in 2019 is that Capcom has specifically stated several times in their websites and stuff for the games, and even just in general talks with reporters and stuff, they've always addressed Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 as reimaginings. But if you play Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 Remake, right, the new games that have just been re-released, they don't say remake at the bottom of it. They're just Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil 4. So it almost seems as if Capcom kind of has an issue with naming their titles. So it seems like they don't really know what to do. Like, honestly, they should have called Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 remakes. But the problem is that I think this is the mentality that Capcom had, is that since they did heavily change certain aspects, they did add different things. It's almost like a revamped story. So the general core elements of the story are there, but it's very different. Like the cutscenes, the way things happen, the things that appeared. For Resident Evil 2 Remake, the police station looked very different. There were certain sections that were blocked off in the remake, while in the OG there were different sections. Even a lot of fans to this day actually don't like that the B scenario, they cut out a lot of stuff and they didn't add that in the remake. But I guess my point here, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it seems Capcom, like they have issues naming their stuff. So I think the reason they're calling it a deluxe remaster is because they're trying to keep it 100% as the OG game. Because I mean, it seems like that's what they were getting at, right? I mean, you watch the Capcom Next event. It seems a lot of the director, they wanted to keep a lot of the same things, the same cutscene. And what's interesting too that's different from Resident Evil is that the cutscenes look identical. So it does seem that I think to me, I think Capcom's mentality is they really are trying to make a 1-to-1 remake. They're trying to make it the same as the OG, but just better everything, better combat, better things. So instead of calling it a remake, they went with the remaster. But
I hope that with this that they do add more scenes to it, like a few more.
Yeah.
And one thing, like, you've beaten Dead Rising 1, so you remember the full
Yep.
story in that
Yep.
one, right?
Yep.
So do you know about that fan theory that, like, people believe that Carlito was Frank's source, that he was the one who called Frank to the town? Because,
No,
like, a lot of people.
I didn't know
There-
about the
there-
theory, but I assumed that Carlito was the one that called them.
Yeah, when the game came out, because like the game basically just starts out with just Frank coming in the helicopter. He's like, I got a big tip that something is going on. Like, how would
Yeah.
he know that something is? Because the military blocked off the town, so there would be like no outside information coming out. So the only way that Frank could have gotten information is basically from somebody that knew that something bad was going to happen, which Carlito knew what was his whole plan.
Yeah.
And so when you remember, when Frank comes into Willamette, the first person he meets in the game is Carlito, right, on the rooftop. And he asks, are you a reporter? And if you notice that in the game, Carlito never really tries to kill Frank, if you notice that throughout the scene. There are the boss battles with him, but if you notice that first boss battle with Carlito, when he's up in the food court and he's shooting the submachine gun,
it seemed he didn't
doesn't
know.
hit Frank directly. He just shoots at Frank's feet, if you notice that, to get Frank to move, basically.
Yeah.
You remember that part?
Yeah,
And
it almost seemed as if he didn't know that it was Frank. I don't know. It seemed to me like because he was shooting from like cover, Brad was in cover, and it almost looked like just they were in a gunfight, and then this guy comes, right? You're playing as Frank, and you just beat the crap out of Carlito, and then after you're like, oh, and then he, that's when the scene ends because you don't, kill him at that point.
You remember that scene when Carlito saved Frank's life? Do you remember that one?
No, actually, I'm actually
in the second boss battle. It was when he hangs Dr. Barnaby and he's shooting at Brad with a sniper rifle. What happens is there's a zombie that's coming up right behind Frank, and Frank doesn't see it because he has the camera, and the zombie is like literally like maybe like 1 foot away from killing him, and Carlito snipes the zombie. So he literally sniped the zombie right behind Frank. It was like like that was one thing that like a lot of people, and some people say that Frank got infected there because the zombie's guts basically went all over Frank. But
yeah, I remember that scene.
Because that didn't really make much sense. Is Carlito is trying to kill Brad and Frank are behind the same piece of cover, and the zombie's about to kill Frank, and so Carlito would just, if he was trying to kill Frank, he would just let the zombie just kill Frank, but instead save Frank's life. And so that was the thing, is I always thought that Carlito was the one who called Frank to Willamette because he wanted Frank to cover the story, and he wanted Frank to expose the story. That was it. It was
I assumed that was the story. I actually assumed that it was. I didn't know that this was a fan theory.
We never find out who Frank's source is. We never find out how he got that big tip out for that source. And so the thing is, though, Frank doesn't seem like he knows Carlito when he lands on the strip, or on the helicopter pad. So I was imagining that, Carlito would probably call Frank like a voice changer. He would probably use a voice changer or something like that, saying there's something big gonna happen in Willamette. So I hope they do like a scene like that where they show Carlito sending Frank a message, an email, or something like that, telling him that something big is gonna happen in this town. It's the story of a lifetime, something like that. That's what I was hoping for, that they changed in the remake.
Another thing that I was also hoping for as well is, and this is obviously if Deluxe Remaster, the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster ends up, I'm just going to call it remake because too many words, Dead Rising Remake ends up doing really well. If we get a Dead Rising 2 remake...
Oh, we definitely will. If this one sells well, we definitely will. I think it'll happen. I think that's their plan.
But one thing that a lot of fans...
all the Ace Attorney games. The Ace Attorney games, they've remade them with new graphics. Yeah. And have you seen the trailer for Ace Attorney Investigations?
No.
Ace Attorney, they've remade Ace Attorney Investigations, and they actually show side by side the original game and the remake. And the remake, it's like totally different. It's like the same cutscenes, the same dialogue, but it's like the graphics are just so much better and so much noticeable, because in the past it was just pixelated graphics, but now you actually see the characters' faces and stuff like that. It's different. And the nice thing about that is I'm pretty sure the Investigations remaster, that it has the option to play the old style graphics too. So I think it even has that. So I do appreciate that. And honestly, I have full faith in Capcom when it comes to this remake.
Yeah.
Because Capcom has not let me down, and I've played all of the Ace Attorney remasters, and I've loved every Ace Attorney remaster. There's never been any glitches. There's never been any bugs, and so I have full faith in Capcom when it comes to Dead Rising Remake. The only two problems that I have with the remake are, first, is I think it was a mistake not bringing back Frank's original voice actor, because the fans are really big on that. They really want TJ to come back.
And I heard that it's the fourth guy. A lot of my viewers were saying that it was Dead Rising 4 Frank. Because I've never played both of us have never played Dead Rising 4. But
I watched a playthrough of it a long time ago, but I wasn't even able to tell. Just personally, just because I haven't seen it that much. And my second problem was with the Larry thing. That was my second problem with it.
Yeah, well, we'll go over that for sure. But what I was gonna get, my point with hopefully if we do end up getting a Dead Rising 2, remake, I would love it if they changed only one aspect of the story. One of the biggest problems and it's not just me, actually, there's a lot of Dead Rising, because I just played Dead Rising 2 with fellow YouTuber Virus the Virus. We did a fun challenge where, every time we lose a survivor, we lose an item that we can't use for the rest of the game. One thing that just always kind of just didn't make much sense was the fact that Rebecca dies in the original Dead Rising 2 story.
Yes, because if you remember, is Chuck saves her 2 times. He saves her during the bank robbery when TK was looting the casinos. Chuck saves her during that, and then he saves her when the gas zombies come in, and then the sergeant goes crazy. Chuck saves him during that. But you haven't played Off the Record, have you?
No, and this is my point.
Survives.
Yeah,
she survives in Off the Record.
And that was my point. Since Dead Rising Off the Record, they kind of had like a happy ending to Rebecca's story. It seems almost as if it would be. I think a lot of Dead Rising fans actually want Stacy to die instead of Rebecca. And I've never played Off the Record.
Here's the thing. I'll tell you. It's a really big twist in Off the Record. It's not really that much. I guess it's a little bit of a spoiler. I'm not gonna say who. Sullivan is not the traitor in the Dead Rising.
Yeah, I heard.
He's actually a good guy in Off the Record. So in Off the Record, he's a good guy. He helps you. But in Off the Record, another person is the traitor. I don't want to reveal who it was, another major character, but it was another person was the traitor. And
was this Stacy? Wait.
Stacey,
Oh my God. Wait. I have to play it actually. Dang. Sorry. I was like, wait a second. We were just talking about Stacy. Is this Stacy? Dang, that's crazy. So yeah, I mean, honestly, since we have 2 stories, and it seems like Dead Rising because I haven't played Dead Rising Off the Record, it seems like Off the Record seems to be a better version of the game. Obviously, if they do a Dead Rising 2 remake, they would have to bring in Chuck. I hope that they bring in some elements from both of the stories to kind of fix it, because even if you play Dead Rising 2, one of the things that just doesn't make sense is that the way that Rebecca dies is just so instant. It's just mid cutscene. It's just a shot to the head, and it's like it didn't feel like a proper ending. So even if they do remake it, having them kind of fix that or make it like an actual character's death would be more important, because it came out of nowhere. I don't know. It came out of nowhere.
More fans wanted Rebecca to be the romantic love interest for Chuck than for Stacy, because I found Rebecca to be a more interesting character. She was basically the female version of Frank. This reporter that was not scared to get the story and everything like that. But Stacy was just like this leader of this crazy protest group that wanted zombies to have rights. It was like, and it was like. Yeah, I didn't like her that much. I thought Rebecca was a better, love interest for Chuck personally. But even if they weren't gonna make her the love interest, it was the fact that it was just, like you said, it was her death was just so random. And also the same thing happens in Off the Record. In Off the Record, she gets shot at like around the same angle, but like the bullet grazed her, so it didn't hurt her directly, and because of that, she ended up surviving. And it's the exact same thing with Off the Record, but instead of Stacy getting kidnapped, Rebecca gets kidnapped by TK, and then Frank has to save her.
Yeah, and. Yeah, I mean, Rebecca's just a better overall character, but that's something that even that you mentioned, that Rebecca's very similar to Frank, and even there's even a scene where she states that, like, I've covered wars, like she even says the same exact quote from that Frank does. But yeah, no, honestly, it felt kind of weird. And also another thing that I'll also add really quick that I didn't make sense was that Stacy and Chuck's relationship throughout the whole entirety of the game, there was no romantic thing at all. Like Stacy acted like the guy in the chair, essentially. Like she just at the comms, like basically she acted like Otis, from Dead Rising 1. It's like there was nothing romantic happening. So I thought it was very strange that even at the end of Dead Rising 2, I think there's a picture of like Stacy, I think, and then Katie, and then Chuck, almost as if they all became a happy family, which I thought was very strange. Like it just came out of nowhere. So yeah, I definitely, if they do a Dead Rising 2 remake, they have to fix that. We need Rebecca to live, make Stacy the enemy, or the someone that at least have Stacy die. Because and this is something that even going to Dead Rising 1, the character for Jessie, I thought Jessie was not a very interesting character. I mean, she was hot, but that's about it. Like, as opposed to like Rebecca, where she was hot, but like you said, she had elements of Frank, which was interesting. So I think for me, it didn't really bother me as much to have Jesse to die in the first one. I don't think that one should be changed, but it would be interesting if Capcom were to do multiple endings or something like that, right?
I liked Dead Rising 1 had a lot of the different endings, but
yeah.
When it comes to Jessie, if you look at Jessie, she's just basically like a new hire for the Department of Homeland Security. She's like a brand new agent, where Brad is like, twice her age. Like Brad is like a seasoned veteran. Like Brad has definitely been in gunfights before. He's definitely dealt with bad people before. Brad, before the whole zombie outbreak, Brad was basically in charge of dealing with terrorists. So that was so Jessie was like, she was kind of awkward in Dead Rising 1, but I actually kind of liked that about her because she was new to the job. She didn't really know that much. You had that scene also where Frank nearly hit her and then she sprained her leg and then had to give Frank the gun. The thing is though, imagine if Jessie went out there to back up Brad during that, she would have died. There is no question about that. She would have died. Like she wouldn't have even gotten through the zombies like to get to Carlito. So she was like a new agent. She had a good heart, but she wasn't experienced. That is what I'll say about it.
I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, because as mentioned, I've played Dead Rising 1, but I don't have too much experience. Like last time I played it was 4 years ago. Well, I'm playing it right now, but I haven't beaten it yet. I'm still streaming it every Saturday. But what I was getting at was that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned the endings. Is there an ending where Jessie survives?
Yes, there is. There's multiple endings.
I see.
There's the ending where Frank dies because he doesn't take, he doesn't get the Zombrex in time. Isabella's first amount of Zombrex. But nothing happens. It's just you get a black screen and says Frank became a zombie and it just ends. And then there's the other ending where Frank gets kidnapped by the special forces when you get taken on the helicopter. If you don't actually break free in time, the helicopter just flies away Frank, and it says that no survivors ever made it out of Willamette and the government completely covered up what happened. There was another ending where, that the special forces kidnap and kill all the survivors like it happens, but Frank isn't on the helipad in that time. And then what happens is the pilot that's on that rooftop looking with the binoculars says, "Oh, I guess he didn't make it," and he turns around, the zombie kills him that was on the rooftop. There was and then there's two other endings. There's the ending where I think it's ending C, where Frank does not make it to the helipad in time, but the helicopter arrives and takes everybody away. Takes away Barnaby, Jesse, Brad, and all the other survivors, and Otis. All those people get on the helicopter. And then the pilot says Frank didn't make it, and they say no, he didn't make it. And then there's the other ending where Frank makes it to the helipad and with all the survivors. So Brad, Jesse, Barnaby. But to get that ending is Frank has to basically do most of the story, but then he has to fail the time and just wait on the helipad, and then the pilot comes by. But it was Dead Rising was always one of the hardest games I ever played as a kid. It was so difficult. It wasn't difficult necessarily because of the bosses, but it was difficult trying to manage everything with the time. It's like trying to get from one point,
and the AI,
and the timer is going down. Yeah, and trying to get all the survivors is like a nightmare. It's like trying to get all the survivors.
Yeah.
Like, and there was this one guy that I got recommended a playthrough of him on YouTube. He managed to complete all of Dead Rising in one sitting. So like this one sitting, it was a 7-hour video. He completed the entire storyline. He rescued every single survivor in that same sitting. And not only that, he killed 53,000 zombies for the achievement in that same sitting. So I was like, how the hell did you do all that? Like, and save all the survivers, do all the side quests, the main story, and on top of that,
I did it separate.
Zombie kills. I don't know how somebody would do that. That's
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I just separated that when I got the platinum for it, but I actually got the reason my memory's a little iffy on Dead Rising 1 is because I actually first played it on the Xbox at my cousin's place, roughly around I think 2009. I played the whole entirety of the game. That was my first experience with it because I never had an Xbox and it was only exclusive to it. And that was it. That was basically I left it. I only played it once, got the good ending. And then after going to Dead Rising 2, obviously, and then not going back to Dead Rising 1 until I think it came out in 2016, but I didn't play it until 2020. And that's when I ended up getting the platinum. But I guess my question before was there an ending with Jesse and Frank and with Isabella and all of that? It's all good, but I guess technically there isn't, right? There isn't, like, unless you
They get on the helicopter, but I don't remember if Isabella is there. That I don't remember if she's there.
Because you mentioned you had to let the time run out, right? To get that specific.
It was like 70-80% of the cases, and then you had to let the timer run out. That's basically how it was. But I remember when I played the game the first time as a kid, I got so mad because of the ending, because literally there is no more cases left. Like when you finish all the cases, like it doesn't give you a specific objective, and you're to assume that you're supposed to stay on the helipad. But if you stay on the helipad, it fails, and even if you stay on the helipad, you get the bad ending. What you have to do is you have to go all the way back and talk to Isabella one more time, and you get a cutscene, and then you get to the helipad. But the game doesn't tell you have to go and talk to Isabella. And
it's
that
very
was
weird.
one thing that pissed me off. And then there was that thing where the zombie killed the pilot on the helicopter crashed. And then out of nowhere, it's like all the zombies are on the helipad, which I'm like, how the hell did they get on the helipad? Because Otis shutting the door down, and the only way to get into the safe room is through the vent, and the zombie's too stupid to go through the vents.
So he brought the zombie from outside, but you can't land.
I don't know how the zombies got on the roof. And then I remember Frank just collapses, and it goes to the credits, and I was like, oh god, I was like, it cannot end like this here. I was so pissed. But then after that, you got overtime mode, which I was at least happy for that. You got the true ending and stuff like that, and it's kind of ironic that in the final chapter of the game, overtime, there's no more zombies in the mall, and it's only the evil special forces. Those are the guys you got to fight.
Yeah. The other thing that I was also going to ask you too, I guess, it kind of just begs the question. So when it comes to this new Dead Rising remake, do you think Capcom should change the ending? Should make it more cohesive, or make it like you get the bad ending and the other ending, or do you think it should be the same? Do you think Jesse should survive and you could get like a complete happy ending where you get everyone, or do you think it should just stay like the original?
I think it should probably stay to the original, but explain a little bit more what happened. But what they can do is they could do an epilogue cutscene after the final scene with Frank on the tank, where he fights the evil special forces commander, and then he just screams, and then the screen goes black, and it says Frank got out with information on the outbreak. The thing is, though, if you read the Dead Rising comic, basically explains what happens right after that scene when it goes black. And the comic basically, if I remember correctly, was that Frank gets into the tank, and when he gets into the tank after he kills the special forces guy, he uses that tank to clear out the zombies that are around Isabella. And then Isabella climbs in the tank with him, and then they drive out. And as they drive into town, there's the Brad's boss shows up. So the guy who was talking to Brad, giving him all the... You never see him in the game. You never even hear his voice. He's just Brad's boss. He shows up, and what he does is he basically tells Frank that you are free to go, but we're taking Isabella in. And then Frank's basically like, no, you can't do that. And then he's like, if you want to die, we're going to kill you right here, but we're taking Isabella in. And so they just basically take Isabella and they leave Frank there. And then that's how Isabella got basically taken by Phenotrends. The government took her and forced her to work for Phenotrends, and that's basically it. And in Dead Rising 3, there's a scene in Dead Rising 3 where Isabella mentions that scene, and that scene is because a lot of fans are confused because they don't know because it was in the comic, but she mentions the scene specifically in the comic, and she says Frank West left me to die, but he didn't leave you to die because he had no choice. He was surrounded by tons of guys with guns, and they were gonna kill him. So there was nothing else he could have done in that scene.
I see. Yeah, I never read that comic, so I'm definitely going to have to. So I guess that just begs the question, do you think that they should do and add that last bit of the comic to make things a little more concise with the story? Because obviously there is a discrepancy with the third one, but if they start making more remakes, Dead Rising 2, Dead Rising 3, I think it would probably flow better, right? If that scene was there, because it was just kind of, it did kind of end, kind of very strangely, honestly. I thought that was probably the weakest part of the game, was the fact that the endings were so weird. Obviously there's a good ending, but even that ending is just very strange. And as somebody that played only on PlayStation, played on Xbox, PlayStation, but then didn't play until way later, and not having access to Case West and Case Zero, I was a little confused as to why Isabella was part of that, how she was working with what was the company called? Xeno? Yeah, Phenotrends.
It's the evil company.
Yeah, for Zombrex and stuff. I was very confused at that because I saw a glimpse of that in like somebody's playthrough. But yeah, so yeah, I definitely think that should be, yeah. But we're in agreement there, right? I had no idea that was a part of the story. Yeah, that should definitely be added. And I guess just to segue, we did mention this before, but the Chinese butcher. You brought up something very interesting, because a lot of people, I guess, just to set everything up before I pass it on to you, is a lot of people notice with the new trailer that Larry Jiang, I believe, or Chang, he's basically, like, they basically changed his ethnicity. He's no longer Chinese or Taiwanese, as you brought up in your video.
They changed his entire outfit too.
They changed like everything. And so what was strange about that as a viewer was that when we watched Capcom Next, there was a section where even like the creative, I think, director, or not the director, maybe the producer, I don't remember who specifically, but there was one guy who was talking about how they wanted to keep the game very true to the fans. And he was having that in the back of his mind. He wanted fan expectations to be there, because a lot of people were like, why are you making this game so violent? Why are you doing this? Are people going to like this at Capcom? And at the end, it kind of, he was kind of having that moment where he's like, maybe I should make this more for modern audiences, which a lot of games do nowadays. And it seemed like what he mentioned in the game was, no, we're going to keep all of the cartoony flips, the disembowel, movements, all the crazy stuff from Dead Rising. We're going to keep it just for fans' expectations. So it was very weird that, in that trailer, we saw that Larry looked completely different. But you brought an excellent point, and I want to hear your point as to the reason. Yeah.
There's really only two explanations on why Larry was changed. The first reason was political correctness, because they were possibly scared that he was offensive to people, which I will say about this is, when I was a kid and I saw Larry the first time, I was terrified of him, but I didn't think there was anything offensive about him. I didn't think that there was anything racist about him. I didn't factor in Larry's ethnicity or think about that at all when the first time that I saw him. I just basically thought crazy, scary butcher that lost his mind during the zombie outbreak. That's all I basically thought about. I didn't think about his race or anything like his name or anything like that. So I don't know why some people think that his character design was racist. And the second reason is, this is probably the most common reason, is that Larry's name, his last name, is apparently Taiwanese, which I had no idea on that. The Dead Rising wiki covers this. Maybe some of your viewers will know a little bit more about this. I asked my viewers I asked my Chinese and Taiwanese viewers if they could explain it to me.
Did they get back to you?
But I didn't see any comments. I'll go back to the video after this interview and I'll check to see if there's anybody got back to me. But I don't think I saw any comments on that specifically. But apparently, his last name, the way that it's spelled, is spelled only in Taiwan. Like there's that name is not spelled the same way anymore in mainland China. Yeah. And so he has a Chinese tattoo, I know, on his back, but his name is Taiwanese. And so there's
well, technically it's a Chinese character, but it's worth noting that in Taiwan, in Japan, in several other countries in Asia, they all use Chinese characters because it's so ancient that people just have incorporated into their culture. So like it's like there's no Taiwanese characters, so it would still be Chinese character.
I didn't know that part specifically, but I think that if anything, it was that specifically, is that they were scared that they were scared that it was going to piss off China. Because like anything with Taiwan these days, any mention of it, any doing business with it, it was people were gonna freak out. There was actually a company I remember that came to my channel like years ago, like 2 years ago, and they actually it was a Taiwanese company, and they asked me if I could sponsor one of their Bluetooth speakers, and I was happy to do it. I had no issue with it. I thought that I was going to get backlash or something like that the other companies were going to cut off contact. Nothing happened, by the way. So it was so I did the ad for the Taiwanese company, but I have no problem with working with Taiwanese companies. But I don't know, the Chinese government, on the other hand, they are just so anti-Taiwan that like any mention of it whatsoever, any mention of it, even having a single character like in a game that's Taiwanese, they don't even recognize Taiwanese as a nationality. They say that Taiwan is part of China, and that's just basically it. And so that's what I'll say, is that it's just China basically like. It's like they extort basically anybody that tries to have relations with Taiwan. Yeah. They basically, I think it's like 95% of the countries in the world don't even have relations with Taiwan because of that, because China just pressures them so much. And I think that Capcom, they're so close in proximity to mainland China, and I don't know how much business
I don't know how much business Capcom does in China, but I'm assuming they have to sell something in China.
Yeah,
Maybe, and they are probably scared that if they have even a Taiwanese character, that their entire company is going to be kicked out of China. That's probably what they're scared about.
And I thought that was a very excellent point that I did not think about, and I definitely think, as you mentioned, that seems to be the reasoning, because it's very strange. As mentioned, we heard in the Capcom Next that the director, or whichever it was, the producer or the old creative director, correct me if I'm wrong, but he did state that he wanted to keep that fan expectation. So him doing that and saying how they're going to keep all the goofy stuff from the OG, not make it ultra realistic, even though they were thinking about doing that, and trying to keep fans happy, it seems like a contradiction, right? Like, why would he say that if Larry they changed his ethnicity to some white guy who's really fat, and before, he was Asian, clearly, obviously, as you mentioned, the way it was written is CHINAIANG, while the correct way to do it in the Chinese way is JIANG. Jiang.
Well, in the remake, if we see that his name is spelled like, because maybe his last name is not going to be Chang, maybe it's going to be something else.
Yeah.
But if his last name is Chang, but it's going to be spelled the Chinese way instead of the Taiwanese way, then we will know 100% that it was the Taiwanese thing. That's what we will know 100% at that point. But that was and the thing is, Larry doesn't even mention Taiwan. Just the character is just Taiwanese.
Yeah.
But it was just apparently that, and I really hope that some journalists, when the game is coming up, that they actually bring it up to Capcom and they actually ask them about that. And I think that these developers these days, I tell you, is these developers are just so scared of political correctness too, is that they will just see things that were not even considered racist or offensive, like nearly 20 years ago when it's Dead Rising, is now people are seeing them as racist and offensive when they're not necessarily racist and offensive. Like, I don't see like you don't think that there's anything offensive about Larry, do you too, right?
No, I will say that when I heard the footage on your end, because I noticed you were seeing another YouTuber's footage, and because I'm just about to get to that part of the game, because like I'm playing it, I'm streaming it again to kind of get a refresher before the remake releases. I noticed that it does sound like the voice actor was not Chinese. It's definitely clear. It seems like it was like a white actor or just any other ethnicity that was doing that, but it doesn't seem like it's from a place that's mean. Like, it's not from like a racist point of view. Whoever the actor was, I think he did the best of his ability. Obviously, when it comes to acting and voice acting, you just accept whatever job that you can get. That's just how it is with acting. So, actors, if the job is there, they're going to try their best to do it. So do I think it's offensive? No, I don't. I don't think that there was like that intention behind, to be malicious or to be racist. No, I definitely, I think that's absurd. And it's interesting. Were there a lot of people that were assuming that was the case, that maybe Capcom was trying to be modern?
From the comments that I've seen, my audience personally, most of my viewers believe that the reason was political correctness. They thought that Capcom was just scared of being called racist, and so they changed that. But my theory is that it's not even the political correctness. My theory is the Taiwanese thing. That's what I think personally. I think it's that, which I guess you could argue the Taiwanese thing is a form of political correctness, but it's just that people are just think that it's like that the reason Larry's being changed is because he's some kind of stereotype. But I think that the main reason he's being changed is because of his Taiwanese name. That's what I think is
And it does seem a lot more plausible compared to the other one. Though I should mention, a counter argument to this would be that when it comes to Resident Evil, Capcom they have changed stuff for modern audiences. So like, if we look, like, for example, there's several instances, but for Resident Evil 4, so the OG RE4 that came out, in 2005, that game that, that ended up being the original Resident Evil 4, that game, it re-released for the MetaQuest. I don't remember if it was MetaQuest 1 or MetaQuest 2, but it was a VR version of the original Resident Evil 4. They took out a lot of sections. I heard that it was heavily censored. I've never played it, but heavily censored, where they took out all the sections where Leon, the main protagonist, would say stuff like women and all that other stuff. Also, like, if you've played the OG RE4, there's several sections where it's kind of pervy. It's very pervy. Where, for example, the girl will go up the ladder and she'll be like, and you could look up her skirt, or even in cutscenes, the main like girl that's like the damsel in distress, or you always see like a little bit of her underwear, of her panties, and it's like, yeah, that's a little much. And obviously in the remake for Resident Evil 4 remake, they did take out a lot of those sections where, for example, Leon has always, like, he stated this in the movie Resident Evil Damnation, where he said, women, women. It's always something with women. Like, he said that in Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil Damnation, and Resident Evil 4, the original, but in the remake, they changed that. They took that out. So there's definitely sections where they've done that. They also, speaking of the damsel in distress, they did change her outfit to be not like, they didn't show her panties. They actually gave her some stockings, I believe. Like, her skirt stays down, which personally I think is good. I think that's because before in the OG it was kind of pervy in my opinion. So that didn't really bother me too much. There were some fans that were very upset about that on Twitter when the game released the remake. But yeah, but I guess those are some changes that did happen with Resident Evil, even with the reimaginings that they did. But yeah.
Well, I will tell you something else about this, and I was telling this to my audience on my stream on GTA on Sunday, but a lot of people were agreeing with me on this. In Dead Rising 3, if they ever do a remake of that, like they're remaking, like, Dead Rising 1 right now, if they ever get to 3, there's one psychopath that they are going to probably cut from the game.
The trans.
Because the psychopath is not politically correct.
Yeah.
I don't think that the character was transgender.
I think he was just a cross-dresser. I think he was a cross-dresser.
Well,
I haven't played the game though. Yeah.
Basically, there's a female character in the game, and the female character's name is Jerry, and she is, this really big bodybuilder, and she was supposed to win like the women's bodybuilding, contest, but the zombie outbreak happened, and because of that, the contest got canceled, and she went crazy because she wasn't able to participate in the contest. Yeah. Now, what happens is when Nick, the main character in Dead Rising 3, if he arrives at the gym, he'll basically see her from behind and see her all muscly, and he'll think that that's a guy, and he will say to her, there's a zombie outbreak coming on, sir, come over here. And then she turns around and says to him, do I look like a sir to you, or something like that? And I don't remember the entire dialogue. And
yeah.
And Nick, and then Nick tries to defuse the situation, and then she calms down for a moment.
Yeah.
And then after that, Nick calls her sir again, but it was like an accident. He wasn't doing it on purpose.
And then the fight starts.
And then she freaks out, and she picks up dumbbells and weights and starts throwing it at Nick. And this really big boss battle. At the end of the battle, when Nick beats her, she runs up to the trophy shelf and tries to get the trophy, but the shelf just crushes her and kills her. And that was and the thing about that is, I don't think that is going to be in the Dead Rising 3 remake. I think that they will definitely cut that boss out. I don't think that boss will ever be in the Dead Rising 3 remake.
I only saw a quick glance at that boss fight. I think it was just a trailer for Dead Rising 3 that I was just looking at because I recently just bought it on Steam, because I definitely want to play it on the channel. But yeah, that was something that I noticed. So the actual lore, because as mentioned, I never played Dead Rising 3. It is a woman, but she's just dressed up as she's just super muscly because she's going to the competition. And
I said, I don't think the bodybuilder was transgender. I don't know the story. I think the bodybuilder was a biological woman. Yeah. But I think she was just really buff. Yeah. And because the character saw her from the back, he didn't see her face. Yeah. He thought that was a guy, and he said sir, and she got really really mad about that.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, so that's definitely something that I think Capcom would change. So I guess that's the counter argument, right? It's that it is Capcom just doing this for political correctness, or is there more for political correctness for the Taiwan-China deal? But there's definitely evidence on both sides. I definitely think that your reasoning is definitely very plausible and would make more sense because of that contradiction that the producer stated in the Capcom Next video. But yeah, I mean, there is, as mentioned with Resident Evil, there's several times where Resident Evil has changed some. I'm just trying to think right now of other sections that they've probably changed, but I can't think of any at the top of my head. But I do know that as mentioned, there are sections where Resident Evil has been messed with for political reasons.
And I also just put in a message. I don't know if you got it. It's the Dead Rising wiki, and it's that psychopath that I told you about specifically.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Sorry, where did you send it? Is it through
I sent it through this chat.
Oh yeah, I see this chat right here. Yeah, okay, I got it.
Yeah, so that psychopath I don't think is going to ever come back in Dead Rising 3 because of just the political correctness.
Yeah, you know what? Even the name is very suspicious too. Like it's very like it's something that I don't think a lot of people would appreciate. The name is Jerry, written very strange, Gallo. Now, Gallo in Spanish actually translates to rooster, or the other word cock, right? So it is very suspicious that this that this character is called Jerry, cock, essentially, or Jerry. That's the literal translation. But yeah, that's very strange. It definitely seems like they were making fun of that. So yeah, would it ever, like, if they were to make the remake? Yeah, I don't think they would ever. Even the name seems very something that would upset a lot of people, unfortunately. So yeah, I definitely think that, yeah, that Capcom would kind of have to change something there. So, but yeah, the other thing I was actually going to ask you too, we're almost done, but the other thing that I was actually going to ask was, um, recently Capcom stated something very interesting, and I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts. This is breaking news. It just released yesterday, but Capcom in an investor meeting basically stated, investors were asking if Capcom was going to stop physical releases. And I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on physical releases, because especially when it comes to Dead Rising did state that they're going to release a physical version in November, if I'm not mistaken, and they're going to have an emergency release, or like the first release, in September 18th. So it's very interesting. Basically, there was one person at the investors meeting that basically asked, "Hey, are you going to keep releasing physical stuff? Because there's other game companies that are, leaning towards just doing digital only." And Capcom did state that they are going to keep doing that. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing here. I don't have the exact words from Capcom, but they basically said that they were going to continue doing physical media because a lot of their audience still buys physical media. So they're going to do it just because of their audience. And I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that. What do you think on digital only or physical?
I think it's stupid doing only digital only, because I like to sometimes have a physical copy, and I like having a shelf and just going through it and just looking through the titles of the games and pulling them out. And also, here's the thing: is when I can't stand it when YouTubers say that there is no advantage to physical copies. They will say, "Oh, physical copy breaks, you've lost it forever," but digital, it's always going to be in your library. But physical copies have one thing that digital copies cannot have. Do you know what that is?
Ownership, because digitals, you don't have ownership.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
more like borrowed time.
So here's the thing: is that if you have like a physical game that I want, you could just say, "Oh, here, Pat, you can borrow this game, and I can give you one of my games," and you can say, "Oh, here, borrow this game," and or better yet, is if I have a game that I don't want anymore, like I platinum did, I don't think I'm ever really going to play it much anymore. I'm pretty much done with it. I'm bored of it. There are some games that are basically like story games, like you play them once and then like you never play them again. So maybe like I don't want to play the game again. I platinumed it. There's not really a purpose. And then you come to me and you say, "Hey Pat, I see that game you got there. You platinumed it. I'd like to give it a try. Can I buy it from you for $10?" And you pay me, I give it to you, or I could sell it to a game store. So that's the thing, is that physical copies allow gamers to get some of their money back put into the game and put that towards other games. So physical copies are actually something that it helps out players, especially out players that don't have a lot of money to spend on games. Physical copies are ideal for them because they finish the game, they want to move on to playing another game, they can sell it. Probably not going to get back all the money that they had, but they'll get back some of it, and it'll help them save money and put it towards their next game. And that's why I think something that physical copies have that digital copies do not have. And I really hope they don't get rid of digital physical in the future, because, or I'm sure you remember, is that games when we were growing up, every game had a booklet, but now booklets are gone, they're extinct.
Yeah, and before they used to be colored, and then there was a moment in time where they stopped having colored. It was just black and white, and then from there it just became just digital codes, like for DLC on day one, like if you pre-ordered the game, you got like DLC, and then after it was just like terms of service and just like precaution warnings, and then after it just nothing now. So yeah, it's pretty sad that there isn't any gaming booklets and stuff. But I guess the other argument too that I've also heard is that digitally you actually you don't own it. So even though you're buying it with your money, they could always say, "Nope, we're shutting down the store. and it's up to them whether they allow you to download the stuff that you've purchased before.
Mm-hmm.
And also it could just run out, right? Like what if Xbox dies or PlayStation dies? You don't have access to those things. I think Ubisoft was also getting into a bunch of heat recently because they've been really pushing this idea of just doing digital only. And so they were getting a bunch of flack because they were like, no, we don't want to do physical. But then Ubisoft is, a lot of their games, like in the terms of service, if you read really quickly, it was something along the lines that you only, it's like a license, you're borrowing the game just for a certain, it's like you're renting the game for a certain amount of time. And another reason I've also heard, another counter argument, is that people like in favor of physical is that when you buy a physical game, yeah, there's a moment where you can actually put the game in your PS5 or your Xbox Series X. The game will update, but you have a choice of just not updating it, so that, you know, for example, whatever bugs that were on like before the first patch of the game, you have access to like the base game without any of the fixes or other stuff. So if you're interested in glitches, in speed running, stuff like that, sometimes, you know, these you're interested in versions. So stuff like that. I've also heard that sometimes games don't even allow you to just play the game without updating it, and that's a separate issue. But yeah. So there's a lot of things, and even talking about in the survival horror space, we're also having companies like, for example, I don't know if you heard, but they were at the Gamer Awards last year, where Alan Wake 2 released, I think, around November of last year. And they showed up in the Gamer Awards. They won one of the awards. I think it was Best Direction or Art Direction, Best Narrative, I believe, something along those lines. And that game was digital only. A lot of fans that were very hyped to play Alan Wake after 10 years, I believe, since the last game came out, were very hyped to have a physical version. And then them hearing that wasn't the case was very bad. But what's interesting too is that they did announce that I think it's actually releasing with a physical release now. So it's almost weird. So what do you think of that? Like, what are your thoughts on games releasing first digital only, but then having physical releases after, very much like Dead Rising?
Both come out at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think they should both come out at the same time. But as a YouTuber, I really have no choice. As a YouTuber, I have to buy the digital copy because I have to play it right away. Because if I wait till November, it's like all the other YouTubers are going to play it by then. So I have to do digital. So whenever something comes out digitally, typically I have to do digital. And most of the time these days I do buy digital. The only time I will buy physical these days mostly is when it's like when it's games that I don't plan on playing on my channel, at least not right away. Maybe games I want to play first on my own, then I will I'll buy them physically. Yeah. But most of the time I buy games when they come out at midnight, digitally, because I just have to. It's not that I like digital more, I like physical more, but because I have to put out the content right away. Like I gotta put it out right away, because if I don't, if I go to the store the next day, somebody else is gonna have a bunch of videos already on that game before me, and
and also having
to get the video out.
Yeah, having it downloaded as well, because now digital only games, have like, you get to download like 90% of the game or 80% of the game like a week or two before the game releases. So that also gives you a little bit more, as opposed to, buying the physical disc, going to a store or having it delivered to your house, getting the disc, putting it into your system, and then waiting for depending on your internet speed, waiting on it to download fully. So I guess, you do have an edge. And especially when it comes to YouTube, when a game first releases, you want to get on top of that immediately, right? But I guess we'll move on to the last section of this podcast, and that's basically things that I want to see in Dead Rising. So I definitely, for this part of the podcast, I definitely want to hear your thoughts as well. If you have anything that you definitely want to see, I know you mentioned the endings and stuff before. Is there anything that you definitely want them to include in this new new remake? And I guess I'll co-op. Yes, that's actually one of the things that I also mentioned as well. It's a little sad though, because if you look at the game's like ratings or whatever, it does say that it's only one player. So it is confirmed that it's only going to be one player, single player. But I'm curious, like one of the things that I was actually mentioning was that I have on my list here is having co-op, but not like co-op like in the sense that, like Dead Rising 2, for example. I don't know how the co-op is in Dead Rising 3, but Dead Rising 2, where you play as the same exact character, that would be cool. But I think for other modes, or having like a specific mode aside from the single player that lets you do that, basically lets you play through the whole entirety of the game with a separate person. I guess would kind of be that way, but yeah. What are your thoughts on that? What way could they integrate co-op?
What they could have done is maybe they could do, if they can't do a co-op campaign, then maybe they could do a sandbox mode. Because remember, Dead Rising 2 or Dead Rising Off the Record had that.
Yeah.
And about the sandbox mode is they had infinite mode in the original, but infinite mode you're constantly looking for food and you're scavenging. Like, just you walk around, explore the stores, mess around, not have to worry about food constantly. But a lot of players, I will say though, a lot of players that have never played the game before, they are going to they're going to experience some of these psychopaths that we've seen as kids, and that made us rage. And I think what's it called? I'll send you this one video, which is actually, it's like a meme. It's only 5 seconds long, but it's related to Dead Rising. I don't know if you can watch it now.
Yeah, I'll add it to the stream.
This video, it's 5 seconds long, so I don't think you'll get a copyright claim for it.
All right.
It's this video. Yeah, this
I'll
is
just
gonna,
add it
you're gonna
right now.
understand the meme.
Yeah, and the other thing, I guess, just before, I'm just adding it right now so you can watch it. But the other thing that I was also going to add to the whole thing was, it would be very interesting. What do you think of adding co-op to like 7-day survivor challenge, something like that? Where
that would be fun.
Doing it with a friend. And also, I guess we'll go right into it. There was another thing that I also wanted to mention too, that you mentioned actually, which was having an autosave feature, or just a save feature that would be deleted if you failed 7-day survivor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's something that you brought up in your video that I thought was such a excellent idea, because you were mentioning this, right, in your video, that you've never completed that challenge, right?
No, I didn't, because it was, and I think you can pause during it, right?
Yeah. That's another thing I should mention, is that in the PS4 and Xbox One, you can just shut off, like, sleep, put your system to sleep. Essentially, I think on Xbox One you have some of my viewers were telling me that you could have, like, you can multitask. So I don't know how that is. I'm not an Xbox player, but yeah, something along those lines.
The thing about this is playing, because to get 7-Day Survivor, you would have to play the game for 14 hours straight, and that is extremely unhealthy. That is just really, really bad for anybody. Because imagine that, like, while you're doing this challenge, like, you're gonna have to run to the bathroom. You're gonna have to, like, eat food during this. I
had a timer.
A nap. Yeah, you might have to take a nap for a little bit too. So, like, playing that for 14 hours straight, that is just unhealthy. And so, look, I don't mind the challenge in 14 hours, like surviving 14 hours. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
But make it so that there's, like, some autosave, and that it automatically deletes when you when you die or mess up. And I know it's possible to do it. I know it is. Because the thing is, though, is, have you ever played DMZ, by the way, in Call of Duty?
Oh yeah, I have. Yep.
Okay.
Call it Modern Warfare 2 or 3?
It's on Modern Warfare 2, but DMZ, the survival mode I'm talking about. I'm not talking like zombies or anything. I'm talking about, it's like you scavenge for supplies, you complete missions, that you exfil, you get straight before the radiation comes in.
Yeah, I played that
DMZ, one. DMZ, the servers are really quick on that game, like really instant fast. As that, basically on that game is if you die, you lose all your stuff. All your stuff is gone. The only way that you're going to get your stuff back in DMZ is if somebody revives you, if somebody picks you up. But if somebody picks you up, you're gone, you're eliminated, it's done. And your survivor streak is gone, it's over. And the only way to keep your streak up is you have to keep exfilling. So you have to keep going to the helicopter and extracting before the radiation comes in. But here's the thing is, and I've had it happen, the DMZ servers are too good, that they're too quick. That I've had it happen where people have, like, internet issues, where, like, the internet is bad and it knocks them out and it kicks them out of the game. And what happens is the game counts their characters dying because of that. And so they instantly lose everything. Everything is gone. And so I think that infinite mode should have something like that if you die, like, it's instant. Like, it's like you don't have time to close your application, you don't have time to shut off your game or anything like that. It's just instant, so people can't cheat this. But it shouldn't force you to play for 14 hours straight, because playing for 14 hours straight, that's going to destroy anybody's health. It's not good sitting down for 14 hours straight and, like, and it's constantly dealing with all that stuff too.
Yes, someone I remember, and I think it was in a stream, was asking you, what about streaming it? Someone asked you, and that's like 14 hours. That's a crazy stream. But I know there's streamers out there that do that. but that would be insane to do that. Like, and one of the things that the way
I
did it,
what I could do, if I could probably stream infinite mode. But if I'm gonna
yeah,
stream infinite mode, I'm gonna do it in 2 parts. I'm gonna do
yeah,
1 7-hour stream, and then I'm gonna do a
yeah.
pause, go to sleep, and then have breakfast, and then wake up, and then unpause the game, and then do it again. The other
Yeah,
7 hours.
that's how I did it. I think I split it up into 3. So I did one day where I did it, but obviously since I was playing on PS4, you can't play other games. So that's the other thing that kind of sucks. Where I think Xbox has a better advantage, where I think you can multitask. Or if you're doing it on PC, you could just alt tab and then just do whatever, right? Play on another, like if you're playing on GOG or something instead of Steam. But anyways, but yeah, that's how I did it, is basically just using the pause. But I have had some viewers that told me on my Dead Rising stream that they basically were in the Xbox 360 era. And can you imagine having that red ring of death? Or what if your power cuts out? I was actually talking to one of my viewers who said he was doing the 53,345 zombies to kill, and his system crashed right at 53,000. And it's yeah, stuff like that is just stuff of nightmares. Like, that's just like, you can't recover from that.
I remember I got that trophy to kill 53,000 zombies, and I tried to do that in infinite mode, but I realized I have to keep scavenging for food, so I just did it in regular 72-hour mode. I just ignored the story, and all I kept doing is I just kept taking the truck and I just kept driving in the tunnel and running everything over, and literally that took me hours to do alone. So it was not a it wasn't a fun experience.
Yeah, that's how you have to do it. And right now I'm doing Dead Rising 2. But yeah, I'm gonna check out the video. But I do want to read a super chat. Thank you, Media Watcher. He basically said, I did Infinity mode on both versions. It sucked. Yeah. Anyways, we'll watch the video. I can't show it to you, but I'll show the audience. It's just 5 seconds, right? So we'll just play it. 1 second.
Okay.
Reel it in before I keelhaul you.
I think oh no! I understand the meme right away.
Oh wait a second.
Reel it in before I keelhaul you. Oh no!
Wait, is it referring to when isn't that the sound when there's a psychopath that shows up? So I guess
now when the convicts come in, the guys.
Yeah.
The Humvee, that one.
Yeah, in the courtyard.
And the reason that's a meme is because it's like every single time you try to get the survivors through the courtyard, it's the worst with them coming in with the truck running you over.
I keep clear of the courtyard just for that, especially in the first time that you grab like 5 survivors. If you're doing the 50 survivors, going through the courtyard is the worst thing, but you have to, because it's the only time where you don't have access to like the skip or whatever from the bathroom in Palisades to Wonder. What's it called? It's
Paradise Plaza to Wonderland Plaza.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. I'm getting confused with Dead Rising 2. Paradise and Palisades. Yeah. If you hear it, it's all that. Yeah. Anyways, so I guess going back to my list as well, is another thing that I also would want is, since they're adding a bunch of outfits in Dead Rising, one thing that I actually really want is to bring back the outfits perks that you get in Dead Rising 2. So for example, I'm actually going to bring in the image right now. I don't know if you've seen the images of all of the costumes. There's a bunch. There's actually whatchamacallit, there's some costumes that have Resident Evil, Devil May Cry. You play as a lot of Resident Evil, actually. Let me count right now. Let me put that in just so you guys can see. Yeah, so we have I'll also send it to you if I can. I'll send it to you. 1 second in the chat so you can actually look at this. I'll send one at a time.
Oh, I'm looking at your stream. This is what you're showing, is this the costumes. And do these costumes give you like any special abilities?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing that they don't specify. So if you actually look closely, one thing that they actually state is that when you wear the costume, the music plays. This is something they announced on Twitter of the Dead Rising official Twitter account.
I just realized that they have a Mega Man Legends outfit right here. Tron Bonne, the right one, the pink one. You remember Tron?
Yeah, the chick, right, in Mega Man Legends?
Tron is an antagonist. She's a pirate that you fight in Mega Man Legends. But the song that's on there, I recognize that song. I know that song.
I see. The Flutter versus Gesellschaft?
Gesellschaft, yes. That is actually the song that actually plays during the boss battle with the Gesellschaft in Mega Man Legends. And so the fact that they're doing that still at least gives me some hope that they haven't given up on Mega Man Legends, and hopefully they still do
Yes.
Mega Man Legends 3, because Mega Man Legends 3 got canceled. I really hope that they consider making it. Maybe if these remakes are successful, they'll consider it.
Yeah, and for Resident Evil, they have so many Resident Evils. They have Resident Evil 1, where you're playing the Chris Redfield outfit, Resident Evil 2, the Saudade song, Resident Evil 4 with Ashley Graham, Liquor, Resident Evil with Looming Dread song, Costume Nemesis with the Metamorphosis, which is super interesting, is that it seems like Resident Evil 4 is going to be it's the remake version. Okay, never mind. I just answered my question. I was going to say, is this the remake or the OG? This seems to be the remake of Dr. Salvador, which is an enemy that has a chainsaw. Really famous enemy in Resident Evil, and you're going to play the Spanish flamenco, the Drive remake version. So this is my point, right? Is that a lot of these things, a lot of these outfits, it would be really cool if they also gave you a perk very similar to the ones for the DLC in Dead Rising 2. And this is actually something that I had to double check. But in the re-release or the remastered of Dead Rising 2 that they released for PS4, that version, they do give you the DLC outfits for free, but they don't actually explain what the DLC outfits do, as opposed to like PS3 and Xbox 360, where they do tell you like, hey, if you use the ninja outfit, you'll be able to, Chuck will say like hiya, right? And he'll do a bunch of like karate moves and like a karate kick and a bunch of the swords. For the PS4 versions, they actually don't tell you that they do different things, right? Or like the sports outfit, where I think you run faster, right, with the cleats, stuff like that. It's like those like very minimal changes to the game, I think would be really cool if they gave you that option with all of these outfits that comes with the digital deluxe. And another good point too that I actually remember you saying in your video was that are all of these outfits locked like out of the base game, or is this a pre-order exclusive? Right? Like, is this like for pre-ordering, do you just get all access to all of the outfits right away? Or is it like locked? Like you can never get these without purchasing the digital deluxe? Knowing Capcom, I think it'll probably be a pre-order or digital deluxe edition lock, but I'm hoping that we get those perks. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they probably will add them to the store, but it'll probably be a DLC on the store, maybe $4.99 for the outfits, something like that. That's probably what they will do.
Yeah, or just keep it for digital deluxe.
I think the thing is about this is, listen, the outfits, these extra outfits could have been the pre-order thing. I think that it's not that big of a deal if they are the pre-order thing. But the Frank original one, the Frank original costume, that should not have been a pre-order thing. That should have been with the default of the game.
Yeah. This one, this is the one, right? The Chuck Green. The Willamette, like
and does his original look, has that been remade too? It looks a little bit like it too.
Yeah, you know what? Looking at the lighting, it definitely looks like it's on the RE engine, right? The lighting of his jacket seems a little more like there's more exposure in it's just very shiny in his face compared to the other one.
I also did not realize this until recently, but I completely forgot that the mascot for the mall is a bee. I completely forgot about that. Isn't that extremely ironic?
Yeah, because the infection, right? The Santa Cabeza, parasite from the bees. So yeah, no, that's definitely something. And by the way, guys, I actually do a lot of secret detail videos. Those are some things that I definitely want to add. It's no surprise to me though that they're actually adding a bunch of Mega Man stuff, because there's so many details in the original, right? Like the original game with like the watch, the Mega Man. Like what's it called? The Legends thing, the weapon that you have that's OP, the shooter, Mega Buster, I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, what were you gonna say, bro?
I was gonna say, can you go back to that picture one more time with the bee before?
Yep. Let's do it.
I just noticed something that I haven't noticed beforehand.
Yep.
This is let me just look at your stream. Zoom in on the picture with the bee. That one, yeah, right here. This right here with Jesse. This is a new cutscene. This is not a cutscene from the original. I just realized that. This is a brand new cutscene. So it looks like we might have answered our questions if there's going to be new cutscenes. Because in the original, because if you look at where Jesse is right near the duct
That's yeah.
And there has never been a cutscene where Jesse was right next to that duck, because I'm actually replaying Dead Rising 1 right now on my own, and I do not remember that cutscene where Jesse turns around when Frank is at the duck. The only time I remember when Jesse is outside of the safe room is when she's going to back up Brad at the beginning, and then Frank like thinks it's a zombie, and then it's just like she gets knocked to the floor. That's the only one, but that's a new cutscene. I'm pretty certain that was never a cutscene in the original.
Yeah, and I guess I'm gonna look at the other pictures to see what's up here too. This seems to be like in the right after you take the elevator down to get into for the Chuck outfit, right there seems to be that, and then this one seems to be the supermarket, right? Yeah.
That looks like the storage room right after the security area.
Yeah. And the other one is definitely the.
I think it is the supermarket. I think that scene with the original Frank. I think that's when Frank gets scared by the crazy supermarket guy. I think that's when Frank gets scared by that.
Yeah, what's his name? Steve or
Steven.
Yeah, Steven. Yeah. But that's very interesting. Yeah, I never noticed that, but that's very weird that Jesse is right next to the ducks where like Otis usually stands. What is she doing there?
And the thing is though, I don't think those ducks are actually in the safe room. I think that's actually outside the safe room.
Yep. And it kind of begs the question, is this, it almost seems like Jesse is kind of like she's holding on to the wall. There's no chair there. So it does seem like this could be that section that we were talking about before where, you know, how Jesse tries to go and save Brad and, you know, she kind of gets scared by Frank and twists her ankle or whatever. So him bringing her back, it could be this, right? Like her bringing her there and then giving us a new scene. But that's really cool that, you notice that, because that would just mean that they are adding new stuff. They are complementing, right? They're adding stuff that makes sense, new stuff that would complement the story.
The two things that we have not seen yet in this remake are my favorite psychopath in Dead Rising 1 has always been the cult, and we haven't seen the cult yet. And I really want to see the cult, like those guys, the raincoats. That was always so creepy. And then the second thing I wanted to see is, I don't think they're showing it for spoiler reasons, because they don't show up until the very end of the game with the special forces. I'm sure you want to see what the special forces look like in the remake.
I don't think they would, because it is kind of like like we were just talking about it. A viewer did comment that it was almost like very like, what, like why did they do that? Like, it was just out of nowhere, right? Like, it's almost like the game was trying to trick you into thinking that it's done, but then, you know, overtime happens or whatever. So I guess we'll continue on with the list of other things that I definitely want to see. I guess we're at number 4. Another thing I really want to see is a slight nod to Dead Rising 2 by having a secret combo weapon kind of just laying around. So you know how in Dead Rising, like, you find the TMP as soon as you enter, the first, what was it called? Paradise section of the mall. Like, you find the TMP on top, stuff like that. Like, it would be cool if we found, like, you know, the Defiler from Dead Rising 2, kind of just to hype us for the Dead Rising 2 remake, you know, which is the combination from the fire axe and the sledgehammer, or like the knife gloves. Like, I always called them the Wolverine gloves, but something like that, like finding them.
Those were so overpowered, the gloves, the boxing gloves, the knives. Yeah. That was Oh, and speaking of which, too, I just remembered one thing, looking at your YouTube video here. Remember how the zombies got into the mall? They got in the mall with the dog because the old lady, and the one thing that people kept making fun of, how that old lady managed to overpower 2 guys who were trying to stop her. Like, you remember that part?
Yeah, that is
I wonder if the remake is going to change anything like that, how the zombies got in the mall.
Yeah, and in the trailer, do they actually end up showing anything? I don't think so, right? A lot of the scenes, they all seem to be the same as the OG of what we've seen, except for that image that we just saw before. But I'm very interested if they could explain a lot of the dumb things. Another thing that I also noticed too, that you mentioned in your video, was I guess this would be another thing that you would want to see for sure, is Thomas. Wasn't Thomas one of the sons for the three snipers?
Yes. About Thomas is I've always wondered why you can't bring him back to the safe room. I guess it's because you killed his dad and his brother.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, the thing about this, Thomas did not seem like a bad guy at all. He was just basically pressured by his, scumbag dad and brother, to do that. They were just basically sniping every single person they saw, zombies or people. So that's what I'll say about that. Is I hope there's some way to maybe save Thomas or something like that, or
very similar to the other guy with the glasses, the one that was like in the women's apparel store throwing like Molotovs. I forgot his name, but I was just playing that
Paul,
section,
I think
and
it was Paul.
yeah, Paul, and a lot of my viewers were like, "Can you save Thomas? I think you can save Thomas," and I was like, "I don't think so. I don't think
No,
so."
you cannot save
Yeah,
Thomas. Thomas is
yeah.
impossible to save.
Yeah, but but it almost seemed like the game wanted to. So I wonder if that maybe was that something that they had in concept stage, but then that was going to change. But yeah, no, that's definitely something that if they could add, that would just be amazing. Obviously, it's not a necessity, but it's more like a wish list. Like that would just be great if you could do that. I guess the other thing too is this is something that my little brother brought up because, as mentioned, he was playing through Dead Rising 1 for the first time as the remake was being announced. He was mentioning how a lot of the stores in the game, in the OG game, are very empty. Like they basically only have one item. Maybe it's like a hanger
Oh,
or
I'm
whatever.
sure they will add more stuff on the floor.
That's something I want. Yeah.
The only thing I'm concerned with is that some of the hidden weapons, they don't make them disappear. They still keep them in the same locations. Like remember the Uzi?
Yeah, on top. Yeah, several
the Uzi
locations.
at the beginning in Paradise Plaza. It's right on top of the
Yep.
security door. It's like right when you like that little like.
Just to
like,
jump
little,
from the
like,
stairs.
Blue, yeah, the little blue roof. That's
Yep.
like right above that. That Uzi was so helpful in the game. It is so
Or
helpful. And that Uzi.
The katana too in Paradise as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and that the Uzi will actually help you kill the most annoying boss in the game, which I think the most annoying boss in the game is Cletus, the gun shop guy, because if you don't have any guns, there is no way
Yeah.
to beat him. Like he will keep knocking you down constantly. If you try to jump behind the counter, there's like a scene where he'll just pick you up and throw you over. So
Yeah.
Cletus I always thought was the weirdest character. And also one other thing I wanted to say about Cletus, I don't know if you know about this, but in the Wii version, do you remember how in
I forgot there was a
Cletus,
Wii version. Sorry.
do you remember how Cletus, the gun shop guy, though? You remember how he basically, the cutscene starts with Frank and that other guy, saying that we need guns to fight the zombies, and he's like, don't you come in here, and then Cletus shoots that one guy with a shotgun, and then he tells Frank, I'm not trusting nobody, and then Frank has to fight him. Then when Cletus, after the cutscene, Cletus runs out of the store, and he gets killed by a zombie version of that same guy that he killed.
Oh,
And,
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, the zombie that kills him is the exact same guy that he killed. So the guy was asking for a gun so he could protect himself. And then Cletus shot him. And it is the same guy because he's wearing the same clothes. But also you see the shotgun wound on his chest. So it is the same guy. But there's two things here. The first thing I will say about that is I hope that the remake explains this better. Because the zombies in the Dead Rising series do
Take
not...
long.
The zombies in the Dead Rising series cannot infect dead bodies. So if somebody is dead, the zombies cannot bring back a dead body to life. It does not work like that. A person can only become a zombie if they are still alive. So even if somebody is like infected and they die, even if it's not a gunshot to the head, they will not come back as a zombie. The reason for that, and the lore explanation for that, is in the Dead Rising series, if you notice, when you take guns, if you shoot zombies in the chest, you'll kill them. And a lot of other games you have to shoot the zombies in the head. The reason you can shoot the zombies in the chest in Dead Rising is the parasite actually does not grow around the brain. The parasite actually grows around a lot of the internal organs and feasts on the organs. And so if you basically shoot them in the chest, you're going to kill the parasite as well, which kills the zombie. So the only way that guy could have come back as a zombie after Cletus shot him is there's only two ways. The first way is he got bitten somehow, but that has not happened. We didn't see him with any bite wounds. And the second way is if he got stung by the wasp, the queen wasp. That's the only other way. If you get stung by the wasp, you become a zombie. But we've never seen that in the Dead Rising series, because in the Dead Rising series they say it several times. If you get stung by a queen, you become a zombie. But we've never actually seen it happen to anybody. We've only seen it happen with zombie bites. But that I hope they explain that with that guy, that how he got infected, how he became a zombie, because that really made no sense. And the second thing is about Cletus is in the original Cletus actually dies, but in the Wii version he actually does not die. In the Wii version, there's actually an extra scene where you actually have the option of saving him and kill the zombie that's on top of him. And after Frank actually saves him, Cletus calms down and he still stays at the gun store. But every single time you come back to the gun store, he gives you guns. So that was in the Wii version. They never had it in the original.
Yeah, I actually forgot that there was a Wii version, but yeah, that's so cool. That's such an interesting detail. I had no idea that he stayed alive.
If in the remake they're going to keep the original where Cletus dies, or if they're going to do it where you can save him and he'll stay at the store. So we'll wonder what happens.
Yeah, and it honestly, that was one of the killers that seemed a bit sad, because he honestly was just confused and thought people were just like, he didn't know that there was an outbreak. He just thought people were just taking his guns, and he's like trying to defend his property. But then he starts running. He's like, "You got why? You wanted your gun so much? Fine." And he just runs out, and that's when he gets bitten. So it was very sad to see because he honestly just looked like a gun shop owner that was just protecting what he had, right? So it would be nice if you could save him. That's a very good point. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
And also the guy that he shot, it was kind of his fault too because of the fact that Frank told the other guy, he's like, "Don't approach him, don't." And then the guy's like, "It's okay, I'm gonna go talk to him." And like and then he got shot, so it's kind of the other guy's fault too.
Yeah. And him like saying, "No, I need a gun," and the guy not understanding why, just like, "Get out of my store," kind of thing. And Media Watcher actually just super chatted again. Thank you so much for all the super chats. He says, "You think Dead Rising 2 will keep the conservative snipers?" You know what? I don't think they were really leaning too much on the conservative stuff. It seemed like they were just more.
There was nothing political about them.
It seemed like they were just stereotypical Americans, right? Like with our guns. They did mention conservative though. I'm pretty sure. But
I remember the cutscene with those snipers. Those snipers did not mention anything political. The only thing they referenced was the Second Amendment. That was the only thing that referenced.
Yeah.
One of the sons basically said that it's our God-given right as Americans to use firearms. That was the only thing that he said. So I wouldn't label them as conservatives. I would just say that was the only thing that was mentioned. The snipers in Dead Rising 2, those guys were political. The guys in Dead Rising 1 were just the guys in Dead Rising 1 were more like survivalists. Like they were basically like those guys who were not trusting, that family was not trusting anybody. They were just like crazy survivalists.
That's what he was talking about. Yeah, that's he was referring to Dead Rising 2. The conservative
Dead
snipers.
Rising 2.
Yeah.
The Dead Rising. Here's the thing is, the Dead Rising 2 snipers were not even conservatives. The Dead Rising 2 snipers were neo-Confederates. That is the difference between it. Because in the cutscene, if you watch the cutscene, they even say that we have to clean up America of conservatives and liberals. That's what the guy actually says. So the sniper that's on the roof in Dead Rising 2, he literally says that. So those guys were neo-Confederates. If you actually look at their tattoos, they have like Confederate tattoos all over themselves. They're Southerners. And so like literally, that's the one thing I don't typically get into politics. But that's the one thing I didn't like. I didn't like it when people were referencing them as conservatives because those guys were neo-Confederates. Like those guys had like supported the Confederacy. And so they in the cutscene, if you watch the cutscene, the guy even says that he hates both conservatives and liberals in the cutscene. So I would just say
that's what I was mentioning.
Like,
he did say conservative. I do remember something along those lines, but I don't think he was referring to himself. And also, as you just stated, there seems to be signs that he's definitely there's Confederate flags on him, and that just wouldn't be a normal everyday conservative. So if Capcom were to do a remake of Dead Rising 2, they might tone it down a little by not mentioning too much of that sort. I don't know. It depends on them, but I don't think that they're like it would be like in the reasoning would be because they're conservative, because they clearly don't look like it. It seemed to me like a very stereotypical, very like just all about guns, just almost like it seemed very stereotypical of Americans. You know how when like, for example, like I'm just thinking of like the Team America song and stuff like that. But the fact that they had conservative just seems ultra like extremist. It doesn't seem like just everyday conservatives. But no, I definitely agree. And I guess we're almost done. It says this actually, number 6. One thing I actually want to see is an Easter egg. Obviously, I definitely want to see more Easter eggs. So, as mentioned, Jill sandwiches, having that in the store was super nice. We've also had Dead Rising Easter eggs in Resident Evil 5. I don't know if you played Resident Evil 5 Pro. There's actually several signs in the village at the start of the game where you can actually see. I have to look over this information because a viewer of mine actually told me, but there's actually a CD poster, and I think the poster can be seen in Resident Evil 5, but it's from Dead Rising because Dead Rising came out first. So that was just a nod to Dead Rising. But stuff like that, I definitely want to see more Easter eggs just built on top. For example, I think it'd be super cool if you went inside Jill Sandwiches, you found like an R.P.D. combat knife, and if you saw like, I don't know, like a beret, like Jill's beret from Resident Evil 1, stuff like that. Like, I don't know, I think it would be cool, even though it's not, infringing on the game any more than what the game already did, because as mentioned, that was part of the original. But just stuff like that, I want to see more, and not just Resident Evil, but it would also be cool if more Mega Man, right? Like more, like if you look at his watch, Frank's watch, it does say Mega Man as being the time, like the watch's maker, but but stuff like that, just more of that, more Easter eggs. I love seeing details like that. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you also want to see more Easter eggs?
I do, and we actually saw one Easter egg already in the trailer. I don't know if you've seen the part when he puts on the Servbot helmet on the zombie, the yellow Mega Man helmet. He puts
No.
that on the zombie in the trailer. If you replay the trailer, there's a scene in it where he actually puts on the. I'm actually watching your stream when it's replaying right now. It should pop up in the background any moment. It's when he's in a store and he puts the little yellow Servbot helmet on the zombie.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah,
You
I
see
have
it?
it right. Yep, I have it right there. I just paused it. Yeah, is that the one you were referring to?
Let me look at your stream. Yep, that's right there. That is from Mega Man Legends. That right there. But to be fair, those Servbot helmets were in the first game, and they actually were an Easter egg to Mega Man Legends. So the Easter egg has been remade as well.
I see. Yeah, and they've also been in other Dead Risings as well, right? I mean, it's funny how Dead Rising has always been very like Mega Man heavy. Even more than the other like Capcom games. But since this was back in 2006, one of the things I want to see is just more of like the newer stuff, right? Newer games. So like, for example, Ace Attorney, as we were discussing before, if we saw something like that, if we saw like more of the remake Resident Evils, if we saw Devil May Cry, something that happened after 2006, or you know what I mean?
There has been two other Easter eggs that I know about though in the Ace Attorney game when you are actually at the police station in Ace Attorney. The theme in the original Ace Attorney game, the theme that plays in the background of the police station is the same theme that plays for the Cadillacs Police Department in Mega Man Legends 1. I don't know if they were just reusing the police theme in Mega Man Legends 1 for that, or if they were doing it as an Easter egg, but it was the same theme that was for the Cadillacs Island Police in Mega Man Legends 1. And then the second one is that if you play the original Mega Man Legends game that came out in 1997, if you go to the TV studio, there's a girl that's outside the TV store, and if you initiate dialogue with her, she says, I want to be a game developer, and I want to make games like Resident Evil. So even though it's a T-rated game, there's like a character that actually says that in the dialogue.
That's so cool. Yeah, and stuff like that is just stuff that I definitely want to see. There was something else that I also wanted to mention about that is I forgot. There's something else that I wanted to mention about more Easter eggs, but yeah. Anyways, I guess we'll just move on. Number 7, maybe I'll remember it. But number 7, I was playing the OG recent. Oh yeah, the other thing that I just noticed with me kind of doing a refresher stream of playing Dead Rising again, since it's been 4 years since I got the platinum, is the fact that I was actually in the courtyard after killing the psychopaths really quick. I was like, oh, I'll just get in the car and we'll drive with all of the 4 survivors that I told to wait in the corner. And then I realized, wait a second, no, you can't bring them in. It's not Dead Rising 2. You can't bring multiple survivors in cars. So this is something that I definitely think that they need to do, is they need to have survivors be able to go in, just like Dead Rising 2, right? The later Dead Rising games, where you can do that, right? Like in another thing too, where I was just playing this just last Saturday, the part where you have to bring the wounded Isabella and you have to go to the back to the safety room, right? That the safe room, when you pass by her motorcycle, you can't just put her on the bike. And that seems kind of counterintuitive. Like, you have a wounded person, you're going around with that James Bond, the guy that's all with what's his name, Clemens, or no, I forgot his name. That survivor, the survivor who has a shotgun that shows up.
Cletus
is the gun owner. No, the survivor. The survivor
with a shotgun.
Yeah, survivor. Let me search it up real quick. If somebody can remember his name, with shotgun and suit. Let's see. Shotgun survivors.
There's actually one thing that I remember being in the trailer for this. I'm gonna find this for you right now, and I want to show you this on this podcast. I'm just trying to find the one part specifically here.
Kindle, thank you. Somebody said in the comments, thank you. I was just going to search up, but thank you so much. Yes, Kindle. I don't know if you remember him. He's basically in that Isabella thing. We were just playing as him. I don't know. It's such a weird name. I didn't think it was going to be Kindle, but yes, Kindle. It reminds me of like Kindle Surprise or whatever. But anyways, yeah, he had a suit and a shotgun. He's probably one of my favorite survivors of all time because he just does such a good job. Obviously, I did have a viewer say that he did actually end up killing Isabella on his run. that's just how the AI works. But I don't know. For me, every time I get to that section, he always is amazing. He always does such a good job of just shooting every zombie with the shotgun. But I guess that's just, survivors with shotguns. But yeah, I don't know. That's one of the characters that screams at. But anyways, what I was saying was that as you pass the grocery store, that location with the motorbike, it just seems counterintuitive that you can't put Isabella in the bike and drive, to the food court or whatever, or to the other shortcut in the plaza, right? So the Wonderland location. So yeah, it's stuff like that, right? Like it seems like this is a great opportunity for Capcom to add stuff like that. They've already added like guns, obviously shooting, the being able to move while aiming, which is something they added in Dead Rising 2. So, but what other what do you think of that?
I wanted to tell you though about this point specifically is that they are making quality of life improvements, and I actually have proof of this. The link that I just sent you.
Yep.
If you click on that link, it stops the clip at a specific moment. Stop it at 3 minutes and 26 seconds.
Yep.
Take a look at that and show that on your
Oh yeah,
on your
I
stream.
see.
If
I
you
see what you're
notice
gonna
that the safe room, look at that with the safe room right there.
Yep.
You see that the safe room now has staircases, because before that it didn't have the staircase. It had that step that you had to get them up. And what happened was all the survivors would just constantly bump into each other on the step, and it took forever to basically get them in the safe room. But now with that little staircase there, it's gonna be a lot easier to get the survivors. You can just run up the staircase and just get right in the safe room.
Yeah. Sorry, YouTube wants me to sign in, so I just took a quick screenshot, and I'm just gonna share that because I'm not gonna sign in right now.
Okay.
But yeah, because I'm not signed into that. Yeah, my streaming software it has its own web browser inside. So, anyways, where's the screenshot? Oh shoot, I forgot. Wait, I remember. Okay, wait a second.
I also wonder that the characters are going to have dialogue when you talk to them, because you have the text beforehand. But I don't think they're going to go that far.
Yeah, that's actually another good point that I noticed with the game. Something very strange. I'm gonna bring up the picture right now. The platform. That's something that I noticed a lot of people were mentioning in my chat. I'm gonna show it right now. But another thing. Oh shoot. Another thing that I was also gonna mention was shoot, I lost track. Oh, or something. Oh shoot. Anyways, that is the location where you can actually bring in the survivors, because the AI was so bad back in the day that they would actually get stuck. I wonder if they just wanted to mitigate, you just going up the dumb ramp or whatever, the block. Because usually the way I would do it, I don't know if this is how you would do it. I would actually just tell my guys I would just point and tell them to go at the end of the pathway there, like right next to the ventilation shaft, and then I would basically just have them go up. But sometimes they would get stuck and they would push each other, so you would have to go down and kind of just shove them so that they'd go one at a time. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, there was something else that I was going to mention. Wait a second. Okay, just going to bring you back. But yeah, there was something else. But anyways, yeah, maybe I'll remember it after. But what were you so I guess those are the things that we definitely want to see in Dead Rising, for sure. But yeah, and the other thing that I also wanted to ask you too, which was kind of something that I was thinking about during the podcast, which was Red Dead Redemption. Going back to Red Dead, what do you think of Red Dead Undead Nightmares 2? This was something that was kind of discussed a lot with Red Dead Redemption 2. But what are your thoughts on, is this a wasted opportunity for Capcom? Did you like Undead Nightmares 1?
I did like thoughts? Undead Nightmare 1, and I'm actually surprised they never made an Undead Nightmare 2, because that would have sold so well if they had made an Undead Nightmare 2. So I don't know what they were. I can imagine the main antagonist would be Micah, and he would have done something stupid that caused the zombie outbreak. I can imagine that would have been.
That's such a good story. Yeah, that would actually be a good catalyst to have that. They did, obviously, in Red Dead Online, they did give us like the Halloween special where it's almost like you're fighting waves and stuff. You're fighting waves of zombies, but that was kind of an undead kind of nod. But it's kind of sad that we didn't get something fully realized. I guess Rockstar could always go back to that, give us something along those lines where, having us play as Arthur again, coming back, because, him dying in RDR, but I guess spoiler alert, guys. Anyways, Yeah, thank you so much, Pro. I guess that's everything I wanted to ask you for today's podcast. Thank you so much for agreeing to join and talk about Dead
No
Rising.
problem, dude.
Yeah, dude, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, getting to know you, and yeah, thank you to everybody that stopped by. Really appreciate it. As mentioned, go check out Pro's channel if you haven't already. Make sure to go check him out. As mentioned, he does a bunch of cosplay playthroughs. He does GTA 5 lore videos or just GTA lore videos in general. You're actually in the process of releasing one, right? Soon, another.
Yes, I am. In
Yeah.
1 or 2 days, either tomorrow, but maybe the next day, it'll be up. I still have to work on a few things.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I guess I'll just read chat real quick, see if I missed anything. Sorry, guys. We were talking and I missed some chats, but yeah, I guess we'll just finish off real quick. If there's anything that people were saying or just people were reacting. Imagine a Dead Rising game with Frank, Chuck, and Nick working. This is something that I was actually going to mention. A viewer of mine mentioned something that was very interesting. He mentioned, what if we got some kind of nod to Chuck? Or Chuck dropping by in Willamette, or what was his point was something similar to, it would be cool if we kind of saw Chuck, an Easter egg of Chuck in Dead Rising 1. What do you think of that? Something like that. Something very loose.
You have to
very...
remember that Chuck was a
How old would Chuck
was
have been too?
Good question. Let's see here.
You said he was 29
Frank is 36 in Dead Rising, so he's a little bit older than us.
Yeah.
But he's 41 in Dead Rising 2. So Chuck Green was 29 in Dead Rising 2, which means that he would be what, 24 in Dead Rising
24, 25. Yeah.
So basically, the only Easter egg I could see them doing of Chuck is maybe they could do like a poster or something saying like famous motocross star, Chuck Green or something like that. Because remember that they say in Dead Rising 2 that before Chuck went on Terror's Reality that he did a lot of motocross back in the day, and that's what they could do.
Seeing like a poster or something in the mall or something like that, I think that'd be just amazing. Zombie says Capcom needs to make DR5 Central American setting or Mexico. Hopefully we get that, or even South American setting. Yeah, and you know what? I would also like more lore to be added as well. Give us more lore regarding to the location of Santa Cabeza. Where is that located? Give us a specific like region. Obviously sometimes Capcom is very loose on regions, but like specific, like, oh, this is in this country. They'd like to stay away from that, but hopefully we get something like that. Campion says they ragged out about illegal aliens or something. Yeah, I see the DR2 guys. Yeah, there was something like that they mentioned. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they're definitely not just conservatives. They're definitely extremists. Says Jay says,
yeah, like I was saying is the snipers that are in Dead Rising 2, they are not conservatives. Those guys are neo-Confederates. Like those guys are, racists. Those guys. And if you watch the cutscene, the guy in the cutscene actually says that he hates both liberals and conservatives. He literally says that in the exact same sentence. He says that liberals and conservatives are destroying America. That's what the guy says. Yeah. So the guy is not a conservative if he's saying that conservatives and liberals, that he hates both conservatives and liberals. Like I said, these guys are like, these guys are Southerners who are, neo-Confederates and like, extremists. They are not, conservatives. That's what I would say about that.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I know plenty of people who are conservative, and I know plenty of people who are liberal, and I do not know one person who supports the Confederacy. The only people who support the Confederacy are extremists. That's what I would say about that. So,
and that's a good point, because the neo-Confederates, I'm just seeing Wikipedia right now. There's a huge picture of the Confederate flags. So it's very specific, and I do remember that being the case, right? Of us seeing Confederate flags or something of tattoo or clothing on them, right? So I don't think it'll be an issue with bringing them back. Perhaps maybe toning something down, but yeah. Anyways, it says on my channel, Zom, I found Cletus like 8 times. My last stream, I beat him the first time, but did the case files wrong way and had to redo the fights. Isabella though. Oh. Gil Tendy says that'll be cool. Imagine if it was Switch style like GTA 5. Oh, I don't know what you're referring to. I guess that was way back when we were talking. Jay, is this the channel you used to stream? I hope in the Dead Rising remake is we get to see evil special forces health bars. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess. Well, the special forces don't really have that much health. They had like a little bit more health. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm still not at that spot to kind of do
The
the
special
refresher.
forces took like 40 bullets from the assault rifle, if I remember correctly. They take a lot of damage.
Oh, okay. So it's a little more. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I guess maybe having a health then would be nice. Definitely. So I guess that is something that you would add to the list, right? Something where having a health bar. That is nice. Extremist would have been a better word. Yes. Jay says, I think Mega Man is in all the Dead Rising except for 2. No, 2 has it. 2 definitely has it. Yeah, you can also have, there's sections where you can put the Servbot masks on zombies, or you could just put the masks on yourself. Yeah, Dead Rising 3 should have been on more platforms, definitely. Why don't we need Dead Rising games on the Switch? Like, damn, the other one bad thing about Dead Rising is the frame rate. The game was horrendous. Yeah, I heard that the reason it never came to PS3 is because it wasn't running well on the Xbox. Now, you've played it. Did you ever run into frame drops?
On the which version?
The Dead Rising 3.
Dead
sorry, I don't
Rising
know.
3? I
Yeah.
never actually played Dead Rising 3 on Xbox.
Oh, yeah,
I played
that's
on
right.
PC.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
But I will tell you is that there was some ridiculous game-breaking bug with Dead Rising 3 when it launched on PC, and it was that if you had like a specific version of Windows installed, that the game would constantly crash for you. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, it would just keep constantly crashing. And so, like, I remember I played with my friend, and he had like one version of Windows, and like he would play for like 30 minutes, and then his game would crash. It was getting really annoying.
Yeah, and you know what? Speaking of crashes, I've recently been playing Dead Rising 2 because I streamed it, and that game kept crashing like crazy. I'm playing it on PS5. Obviously, that's the PS4 version, but I don't know if you've run into any issues with Dead Rising 1. I think I've ran into I haven't run into any issues with Dead Rising 1, but Dead Rising 2, I don't know, maybe if you replay that, let me know how that is, because for me, it just kept having crashes. Like, I was even playing just yesterday, and my character was floating up in this, like floating on top of an invisible car and going up, and then and then the game just completely crashed. And I was like, what is going on with this? Like, that Capcom definitely needs to address that. But yeah, Zom says, I agree, Jay. Days, yeah, hell yeah, with 30 survivors on the bus. Yeah, you mean like bringing survivors on vehicles? Yeah. I've streamed Days Gone. Okay, yeah, Zom, you keep talking about Days Gone. I'm not talking about Days Gone. I'm talking about Dead Rising. Anyways, Thomas says Undead Nightmares also had additional online content, which was great, like Horde mode. You know what? That's something that I forgot. Yeah, was there multiplayer for Undead Nightmares? Because I was just playing it, redoing it because I got the platinum, and I forgot about that.
There wasn't a free mode Undead Nightmare,
Yeah,
but there was a Horde mode that did exist. Yes.
I see. I forgot about that. Yeah, because it's been years, right? I think last time I played was 2013. I don't know. It's been way too long. Yeah, I love this podcast. Watch the entire stream. Thank you so much. I could talk like this all day. I think I'm gonna try to State of Decay. Chuck is a fun character to play as. Okay, guys, we're almost caught up. I sleep under a Confederate flag blanket. What? Okay. Cliff was related to a little girl and her mom in the secret intro to Connie and Dakota. Oh, I did not know that.
No, that's not true.
Was that not? Okay.
No, it's not. It's not true. There is a lot of people think that the Cliff's family on the wallet that you see, that's the family that's in the beginning. Do you remember the beginning cutscene when that mother and child are driving? You remember that one?
Yeah. The intro with the frog.
People think that the mother and the daughter are Cliff's family, but they're not, because I think it's the daughter has different hair color than the girl that's in the picture. They just have similar character models, but she has a different color and hair. And also, Cliff said that that when I heard her scream, that I lost it. I absolutely lost it when the zombies killed her. But the zombies killed them outside the town when they were in the middle of nowhere. So like they didn't kill them in the mall. Cliff saw his family die in the mall. So that theory has been disproven. That's like a common theory. They think that that's Cliff's family, but it's not Cliff's family. The people that died at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, actually, yeah, with Cliff. Yeah, I'm remembering something like as soon as he runs out, I think he drops his wallet, right? I think that's when you look at it, I believe.
Yeah, when you kill him, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that'd be a huge contradiction. It does seem like it's a different people, and Capcom was just probably most likely just reusing the same the same kind of character models for that. Damn, I guess I'm gonna play DR2 on Xbox then. Yeah, same here. My game crashed a few times on DR2. Thank you, Alberto. Yeah, so you've had similar issues too. Yeah, that's something that Capcom definitely needs to address. But yeah, thank you everybody. Okay, so we caught up. Everyone, Mastermind Brain says in the remake, I hope we expand the true iCult and dive into what their beliefs are, since they were supposed to have more involvement with the main story, but they were cut due to time constraint. You know what's weird about them? That a lot of my viewers were mentioning in my previous stream, where I fought the main leader, is that it doesn't make sense as to why they were there. Is there anything in the game that explains that? I don't know if to your knowledge.
Not really. And it's believed that the cult was formed after the zombie outbreak. We don't think the cult existed before the outbreak. Because think about it, that some small town in the middle of nowhere is going to have like some crazy cult. I don't really think so. I think that they saw this because and when you really think about it, this stuff is not entirely unrealistic, because whenever like disasters have happened in history that we could not explain there, people have turned to insane like I would say extremist religious ideology in order to explain that. And so it's not uncommon that like a cult would form in like an apocalyptic scenario, and they would be explaining, the zombies are coming from this, and this is like some ancient god that's coming down and punishing us or whatever that. So that's basically, I think they formed during the zombie outbreak. I don't think they formed beforehand.
Yeah, like they had their own safe house, so then they were just listening to all of the nonsense from their leader, and then maybe that guy was an ex-cult leader, so he had, that influence over people. He knew how to do that, but yeah, something like that, right? But yeah, that's a very good theory, bro. But anyways, thank you guys. Basically, we're gonna end the stream there, but thank you everybody for stopping by. Thank you, huge thank you to Pro for stopping by. As mentioned, I never thought I would actually do a collab with you, but seeing that you had such a passion for Dead Rising, I was like, no, I have to have you on the channel. But thank you, man. Thank you so much. Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. See you.